Rolling right now. Look at this machine. Does it look like a spaceship from the 1950s? Or maybe a giant spider made of metal? You might think these are bad Photoshop jobs or props from a sci-fi movie, but believe it or not, every single machine in this video is 100% real. We are digging into the lost files of history to find the 10 weirdest, rarest, and most mind-blowing trucks ever built. We are talking about forgotten giants that completely broke the rules of what a vehicle should look like. From Art Deco masterpieces to a 10-wheeled desert monster that defies physics. By the end of this video, you are going to question reality. Which one would you actually dare to drive? Smash that subscribe button, buckle up, and let's roll. We are kicking things off with the grandfather of the modern delivery van, the Mercedes-Benz L319. Before the Sprinter van took over the world, there was this curvy, charming piece of German engineering. Launched in 1955, this does not look like your typical rugged truck. It looks incredibly friendly, doesn't it? But do not let that cute face fool you. This was Mercedes' first real attempt at a light truck after World War II, and they absolutely nailed it. Unlike the heavy, long-nosed trucks of that era, the L319 featured a cab-over design to maximize space in tight European cities. Under the hood, or rather under the cabin, it was powered by a nearly indestructible diesel engine that produced around 43 horsepower. While the top speed was only about 50 miles per hour, speed was never the point. It was built for reliability and utility. You will notice the distinct lack of a traditional hood. Instead, you have that iconic flat rounded nose with the massive Mercedes star. It bridged the gap between a small passenger car and a heavy hauler, offering a gross vehicle weight of nearly 3.6 tons. It was the workforce that helped rebuild Germany's economy. In the United States, we are used to massive Ford F-Series or Chevys, so seeing an L319 feels like spotting a unicorn. Today, collectors go absolutely crazy for these things, often turning them into vintage food trucks or stylish campers. A fully restored model can fetch impressive prices at auctions because they are so rare. It is proof that a truck does not have to be aggressive to be legendary. It just needs to be reliable. If you saw this rolling down the street today, you would definitely stop to take a picture of this smiling truck. Now let's travel back to the future, or at least the 1940s version of it. This is the GMC Futureliner, and it is arguably the most majestic vehicle ever to roll on asphalt. General Motors only built 12 of these behemoths for their Parade of Progress. The goal was to tour across the United States and show small kids the incredible technology of the future, like jet engines and microwaves. Standing at over 11 feet tall and 33 feet long, the Futureliner is an Art Deco masterpiece that looks more like a train than a truck. The engineering here is absolutely wild. It features dual wheels on the front axle, which means it has 4 front tires for steering. The driver sits centrally in a high cockpit, looking down on traffic like a pilot, with no side mirrors, just a complex system of lenses. Power came from a 302 cubic inch inline-6 engine, and while it looked fast, it struggled to hit 40 miles per hour due to its massive 13-ton weight. The sides of the truck open up hydraulically to reveal stage displays, turning the vehicle into a mobile theater. Only a few of these still exist today, and when one goes to auction, we are talking about serious money. One actually sold for over $4 million at Barrett-Jackson, making it one of the most expensive trucks in history. It represents an era of American optimism where we thought the future would be sleek, chrome-plated, and streamlined. It was not just about hauling cargo, it was about hauling ideas. Sadly, the Parade of Progress was cut short by World War II, making the Futureliner a rare snapshot of a dream that never fully happened. If the Futureliner was about science, the Labatt Streamliner was about style and, of course, delivering beer. Commissioned by the Labatt Brewing Company in Canada during the late 1930s, this truck was designed by Count Alexis de Sachnovsky. Yes, a literal count designed a beer truck. He applied the principles of aerodynamics to a heavy hauler, creating a shape that looked more like a grounded airplane or a locomotive than a delivery vehicle. The curves are stunning, earning it awards at the World's Fair for its groundbreaking design language. Mechanically, the Streamliner was built on a White Motor Company chassis, specifically chosen for its durability. But the bodywork was pure art, hand-beaten from aluminum and wood to create that teardrop shape. The cab slanted backward aggressively, significantly reducing wind resistance. This was decades ahead of its time for trucks, where most were just square bricks on wheels. While it helped with fuel efficiency, the main purpose was marketing. It was a rolling billboard that proved beer delivery could be sophisticated and futuristic. Unfortunately, the Streamliners had a tragic ending. Most of these beautiful machines were scrapped for their metal during the war efforts or simply fell into disrepair. However, their legacy lives on through historical photos and a few painstaking recreations. It reminds us of a time when industrial design was not just about cost-cutting, it was about making a statement. Imagine seeing this rolling down the highway today. It would stop traffic instantly. It is the kind of elegance we just do not see in the trucking industry anymore. Okay, I promised you things you would not believe exist, and here is the ultimate proof. This is the Dabian. Now, to be technically accurate, this is not a factory vintage truck, but a modern custom monster built with vintage DNA. Owned by the Rainbow Sheikh of the UAE, this is widely considered the largest SUV in the world. Just look at the scale of this thing next to a normal car. It looks like it could crush a house without even noticing. It is a one-of-a-kind creation that pushes engineering to the absolute limit. The Dabian measures over 35 feet long and utilizes the chassis from a vintage Oshkosh M-Ton 075 military truck. But here is the kicker. It has a Jeep Wrangler cabin grafted onto the back as the driver's seat. It sits on 10 massive wheels. Yes, 10. It is designed to float over the soft sand dunes of the desert like a ship on the ocean. Weighing in at a staggering 24 tons, this beast is powered by a 600-horsepower Caterpillar diesel engine to get it moving. The front-end design is actually based on a vintage truck style from the 1940s, giving it that retro look despite being built recently. The Dabian is not about practicality, it is about excess and imagination. It combines the raw, rugged history of American military transport with a level of luxury that is hard to comprehend. While you won't see this on a public highway, it stands as a monument to what happens when you have unlimited budget and a love for giant trucks. It is real, it drives, and it is terrifying. Let's get back to some pure American grit. Meet the Corbett D600, often affectionately called the High Boy, or simply the Tall Boy. Produced in North Carolina in the early 1950s, this truck looks like it hit the gym and never skipped neck day. The most striking feature is undeniably that incredibly high hood and the massive radiator grille that gives it a distinct, almost human-like face. Corbett was not a huge manufacturer like Ford or GM, but they built trucks for the toughest jobs imaginable. The reason for its bizarre appearance was purely functional. The D600 was designed with a massive Continental gas engine, or a Cummins diesel that physically required the hood to be that tall just to fit it in. The fenders sit high off the tires, giving it a look of being ready to wade through a swamp or deep mud at any moment. It was a heavy-duty prime mover, often used for hauling massive loads of timber or freight across the country before the interstate highway system was fully built. These trucks are incredibly rare today. If you are lucky enough to see one at a vintage truck show, you will notice it towers over everything else from that era. The driver sat way up high, dealing with heavy steering in a loud, hot cabin. It represents the golden age of independent American truck manufacturing, where function dictated form, resulting in a brute force aesthetic that is undeniably cool. The Corbett D600 is a reminder of when trucks were built by hand, for hands that weren't afraid to get dirty. Now for something completely different. To my American viewers, this might look like a golf cart on steroids, but in the UK, this is a cultural icon known as the milk float. Specifically, this is the classic Morrison electric car. Before Tesla made electric vehicles cool, the British were using these battery-powered workhorses to deliver fresh milk to doorsteps every single morning for decades. They look fragile, but they were actually incredibly robust, carrying tons of glass bottles on their flatbeds while navigating narrow neighborhood streets. The engineering is simple yet brilliant. They are powered by heavy lead-acid batteries, which made them slow, topping out at around 15 to 20 miles per hour. But speed was not needed. Silence was the key. They were designed not to wake up the neighborhood at 4 a.m. The open cabin allowed the milkman to jump in and out hundreds of times a morning without opening a door. It was the ultimate stop-and-go vehicle, perfectly optimized for its specific job. What is truly amazing is their longevity. Because they have very few moving parts compared to a gas engine, some of these floats from the 1950s and 60s are still running today. They became a beloved part of British life. While modern delivery trucks are faster, none have the charm of the humble milk float. It is a testament to the idea that sometimes you do not need horsepower or aerodynamics. You just need a design that fits the job perfectly. You cannot talk about vintage trucks without mentioning the legend, the Peterbilt 351. This is the classic needle nose that ruled the American highways from 1954 all the way to 1976. Now, movie buffs might scream, "That is the truck from the movie Duel." Close, but not quite. The movie used the lighter Model 281, which had a single drive axle. This is the Model 351, its bigger, tougher brother, featuring twin drive axles for heavier loads. It defined the look of the American trucker for a generation. The narrow nose was not just for style, it allowed for better visibility and easier access to the engine for repairs. It is rugged, loud, and smells like diesel and freedom. The 351 features a butterfly hood that opens from the sides, aluminum cabs to save weight, and a chassis that could handle millions of miles of abuse. Truckers love them because they are purely mechanical. There are no computers, no sensors, just gears and guts. Driving one requires real skill and strength. Today, the Peterbilt 351 is a highly sought-after collector's item. Seeing one on the road is an event. It has a menacing, purposeful stance that modern aerodynamic trucks just cannot match. It reminds us of the golden era of trucking when the radio was your only friend and the road went on forever. If you want to experience what trucking was really like in the 60s, sit inside a 351. It is the quintessential American big rig that built this country. If you think three-wheelers are unstable, the British engineers at Scammell would like a word with you. This is the Scammell Townsman, the final evolution of the famous mechanical horse. Designed for the tight, twisting streets of London and old railway yards, this three-wheeled tractor unit could turn on a dime. Literally, it has a turning circle so tight it could practically chase its own tail. Released in the 1960s, the Townsman looks bizarre to modernize, with its fiberglass cabin that looks like something out of a cartoon. The single front wheel steers the vehicle, allowing for incredible maneuverability that a four-wheel truck simply could not achieve. The driver sits in a futuristic beak-like cab. It was powered by a modest Leyland engine, giving it a top speed of roughly 40 to 50 miles per hour, which frankly is terrifying enough on three wheels. It utilized a unique automatic coupling system, allowing the driver to hook up and drop trailers without ever leaving the cab, which was revolutionary for efficiency. However, they were also known for being a bit tippy. If you took a corner too fast without a trailer, things could get scary very quickly. Despite the danger, as a piece of engineering history, the Townsman is fascinating. It solved a specific problem, urban congestion, in a uniquely British way. It is weird, it is wonderful, and it is totally gone from the roads today. Seeing one now feels like looking at a toy that somehow grew up to be a real truck. From Britain to Germany, here is another three-wheeled oddity that defines minimalism, the Tempo Hanseat. Developed post-World War II, Germany needed cheap transport to rebuild, and the Hanseat was the answer. It is basically a motorcycle front end welded to a truck bed. It looks incredibly simple because it is. There is no luxury here, just a steering wheel, a seat, and an engine. It became the backbone of small businesses, delivering everything from coal to vegetables across the country. Mechanically, it is fascinating. It was powered by a tiny two-stroke engine, usually around 400 cc. That means it was loud, smoky, and definitely not fast, topping out around 30 miles per hour fully loaded. The engine sits right above the front wheel, and the engine actually turns with the wheel when you steer. It is crude technology, but it was easy to fix and cheap to run. The blue smoke trailing behind it was a common sight in German towns in the 1950s. Interestingly, after production stopped in Germany, the tooling was sent to India, where it was built as the Bajaj Tempo for decades. It is a vehicle that refuses to die. It is bouncy, unstable, and noisy, but it has a cult following today because driving one is an absolute adventure. You do not drive a Tempo, you wrestle with it. It reminds us that sometimes the simplest solution is the one that lasts the longest. Just make sure you bring some earplugs. Finally, we have the Henschel HS100. When you think of German trucks, you usually think of Mercedes or MAN, but Henschel was a powerhouse of engineering in its own right. The HS100, introduced in the 1960s, is a masterclass in industrial design. It is boxy, muscular, and looks like it was carved out of a solid block of granite. Henschel was originally known for building locomotives and even aircraft, so their trucks were famously over-engineered and incredibly tough. The HS100 featured a distinct bulge on the front grille and the six-pointed Henschel star, which is different from the Mercedes star. It was powered by a robust diesel engine that offered high torque for heavy construction work. These trucks were the kings of the construction site, hauling gravel, cement, and machinery without breaking a sweat. The suspension was advanced for its time, designed to handle rough terrain while keeping the heavy load stable. It was a serious tool for serious work. These trucks are incredibly rare now because the Henschel brand was eventually absorbed by Mercedes-Benz in the late 60s. Seeing an HS100 is a reminder of a lost brand that prioritized durability above all else. It is not the flashiest truck on this list, but it commands respect. It represents the strong, silent type of the vintage truck world. If this truck could talk, it would tell stories of building the modern world, one heavy load at a time. We have just seen the cute Mercedes L319, the futuristic GM Futureliner, the 10-wheeled monster Dabian, and even the 3-wheeled madness of the Scammell Townsman. From German efficiency to American excess, these 10 machines prove that trucking history is anything but boring. So, I have to ask you, if you could restore just one of these and park it in your driveway, which one are you picking? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more insane machinery. Thanks for watching and keep on trucking. Forget absolutely everything you know about normal pickup trucks. While everyone idolizes the massive Ford F-150 or the rugged Chevy C10, automotive history has been secretly hiding some absolute monsters. Today we are exposing the 10 most bizarre, completely insane classic pickup trucks you will not believe actually existed on real roads. We are talking about legendary American engineering failures that literally trapped drivers inside, and a horrifying 3-wheeled British contraption so dangerous its entire engine turns with the steering wheel. You absolutely have to see the terrifying, mind-bending truck I'm revealing at the very end of this video. Prepare to be shocked. Hit that subscribe button right now, buckle up, and let us dive into the weirdest workhorses ever built. Let us kick things off right here in America with a truck that looks completely normal at first glance, but hides a legendary engineering disaster, the Ford F-100 unibody. In 1961, Ford decided to revolutionize the pickup truck market by breaking a fundamental rule of truck design. Instead of mounting a separate cab and bed onto a heavy steel frame, they welded the cab and the bed together into one continuous piece of sheet metal. It looked sleek, modern, and incredibly stylish. Ford aggressively marketed it as the ultimate smooth-riding truck for the modern American worker, hoping to dominate the entire market. Mechanically, it was offered with Ford's reliable inline-six engine or the mighty Y-block V8, making it a very capable performer on paper. The integrated body significantly reduced production costs and gave the truck a very clean, car-like appearance that dealers absolutely loved showing off in their showrooms. The payload capacity was rated at a standard half-ton, or roughly 1,000 pounds, which seemed perfectly adequate for daily hauling tasks. Ford executives genuinely thought they had engineered the absolute future of the American pickup truck, believing that buyers desperately wanted the comfort of a family sedan mixed with heavy utility. But here is the devastating twist. Because trucks are meant to haul heavy loads, their frames naturally flex under stress. In a normal truck, the gap between the cab and bed absorbs this flex. In the unibody Ford, there was absolutely no gap. If you loaded the bed up with heavy rocks or equipment, the entire body would literally bend in half. It bent so badly that the doors would jam shut, trapping the driver inside, or worse, they would pop wide open while driving down the highway at 60 miles per hour. If you thought a bending truck was bad, wait until you see our next tiny British workhorse. Entering the post-war era, the British desperately needed a highly versatile farm vehicle, giving birth to the legendary Land Rover Series 1 80-inch pickup. Visually, it is an absolute icon, looking like a boxy military jeep that suddenly decided to take up farming. Born in 1948, the Series 1 was Great Britain's direct answer to the American Willys Jeep, but it came with its own incredibly unique flavor. While the Americans focused on sheer brute force, the British needed something that could survive the harshest agricultural environments while dealing with severe post-war material shortages across the entire country. Because heavy steel was heavily rationed in the United Kingdom after World War II, Rover engineers made a brilliant pivot. They built the body panels entirely out of a special aluminum alloy called Burma-Bright. This meant the truck was incredibly lightweight, weighing just over 2,600 pounds and naturally rust-resistant. Sitting on a tiny 80-inch wheelbase, it was powered by a modest 1.6-liter engine, producing just 50 horsepower, coupled with a robust four-wheel drive system. Its top speed was a mere 50 miles per hour, but it could conquer almost any muddy field or steep dirt hill without breaking a sweat. The wild twist about the Series 1 is not just its aluminum body, it is the fact that it was literally designed to replace a farm tractor. It featured a mechanical power takeoff, or PTO system, that allowed farmers to hook the truck's engine up to circular saws, heavy threshing machines, or large water pumps. You could drive it to the field, use it to power your heavy farm equipment all day long, and then drive it straight home. But while the British were building off-road legends, they were also making an adorable little grocery getter coming up next. Behold the Morris Minor pickup, a tiny truck that looks significantly more like a cartoon character than a serious commercial vehicle. With its big bug-eyed headlights and softly rounded fenders, it looks like it absolutely belongs in a quaint British village delivering fresh glass bottles of milk, not hauling heavy construction materials. It is arguably the most charming and least intimidating commercial vehicle ever produced in history. When you look at it, you immediately want to hug it rather than load its bed full of dirty gravel or heavy lumber for a serious weekend construction project. Introduced in 1953 as a light commercial variant of the highly successful Morris Minor passenger car, this little truck was smartly built on a separate strengthened chassis to handle extra cargo weight. Under the hood was the legendary A-Series engine, initially a tiny 803 cubic centimeter motor, producing a laughable 30 horsepower. It weighed a mere 1,700 pounds empty. It was mechanically simple, exceptionally reliable, and incredibly cheap to run, making it a massive favorite among small business owners, local bakers, and tradesmen across the United Kingdom during the 1950s. However, the twist is just how comically underpowered and tiny it is by modern American standards. We are talking about a so-called truck that took almost 30 agonizing seconds to reach 60 miles per hour, if it could even get there while fully loaded. Its maximum payload was a measly 560 pounds. By United States standards, it is basically a reinforced, street-legal golf cart, yet it single-handedly mobilized a massive chunk of the British working class. Italy, however, had its own incredibly stylish take on the micro hauler, which we will look at right now. Say hello to the Fiat 1100 Industriale, a vehicle that aggressively proves Italians cannot help but inject high-end style into absolutely everything, even a filthy farm truck. With its distinctive sloping front grille, elegant suicide doors, and beautiful curves, it looks like a truck wearing a tailored Italian suit. It is a commercial vehicle that somehow feels deeply romantic and sophisticated. Imagine stepping out of a muddy farm field into a vehicle that was designed with the same artistic flair as a classic European sports car. It truly is a masterpiece of light commercial design. Produced in the late 1950s, the Industriale was directly based on the wildly popular Fiat 1100 family sedan. Fiat essentially chopped the back half off their hit family car, reinforced the rear suspension, and bolted on a wooden or steel dropside bed. It was powered by a spirited 1.1-liter four-cylinder engine producing about 40 horsepower, pushing a curb weight of roughly 1,900 pounds. It was not built for heavy industry, but rather for navigating the incredibly tight, winding cobblestone streets of Rome and Florence, where a full-sized American truck would get completely stuck. The bizarre twist here is the sheer existence of a luxury farm truck during that specific era. Many of these trucks came with the exact same beautifully crafted dashboards, comfortable seating, and stylish steering wheels as the passenger cars they were based on. Imagine hauling smelly manure and dirty construction debris in a vehicle that feels like a vintage luxury sedan on the inside. It was a bizarre clash of high fashion and blue-collar labor. Speaking of tiny, stylish trucks, our next vehicle makes the Fiat look like an absolute giant by comparison. This is the Austin A35 pickup, a truck so exceptionally rare and so unbelievably tiny that most hardcore car enthusiasts do not even know it actually exists. Visually, it looks like a mad scientist took a shrink ray to a classic pickup truck. It has the front end of a cheerful little British economy car, which then abruptly ends in a miniature, almost toy-like cargo bed. It is so small that a tall American adult could easily look right over the roof without standing on their tiptoes. It redefines the exact meaning of a micro truck. Introduced in 1956, the A35 pickup was mechanically identical to the Austin A35 sedan. It featured a tiny 948 cubic centimeter A-series engine, outputting a blistering 34 horsepower. The entire truck weighed a hilarious 1,500 pounds empty. It was explicitly designed for very light urban deliveries, think local florists, village bakers, and neighborhood handymen. The payload capacity was exceptionally small, making it significantly more of a mobile marketing billboard for local boutique shops than a serious heavy-hauling work vehicle for construction sites. The massive twist with the A35 pickup is its extreme rarity, combined with a quick trivia question for you. Austin only produced around 475 of these tiny trucks before pulling the plug. Finding a surviving one today is like finding a unicorn. Now for our mid-roll trivia. Do you know which major automaker was crazy enough to put a high-revving sports car engine into a pickup truck bed in the 1970s? Drop your guesses in the comments below. Before we reveal that answer, let us take a trip behind the Iron Curtain. Welcome to East Germany and the IFA Framo V901/2. If you want a truck that perfectly encapsulates the grim utilitarian vibe of the Cold War era, this is absolutely it. It looks like a prop from a vintage spy movie featuring a narrow, upright grille, aggressively bulging fenders, and an overall crude design that screams 1930s, despite being built well into the 1950s and 60s. It is a harsh, unapologetic machine built purely for function, completely devoid of any Western concepts like comfort, style, or smooth driving dynamics. Manufactured by the East German state-owned conglomerate IFA, the Framo was the primary light commercial vehicle for the entire nation. It featured a basic steel ladder frame, a solid rear axle, and a very simple wooden bed. Weighing in at around 2,200 pounds, it was built with whatever substandard materials the Soviet-backed state could scrounge up. This meant it was incredibly rugged, utterly devoid of any driver comfort, and specifically designed to be easily repaired on the side of a dirt road with nothing but a hammer and a cheap wrench. But the truly bizarre twist lies right under the hood. Unlike traditional four-stroke engines found in Western trucks, the Framo was powered by a tiny 900 cubic centimeter, three-cylinder, two-stroke engine producing just 28 horsepower. Yes, a two-stroke engine. This meant that this commercial delivery truck sounded exactly like an angry, oversized chainsaw and left a massive, choking cloud of blue, oily smoke wherever it went. America had its own incredibly weird micro trucks too, and this next one was originally sold directly inside household appliance stores. Meet the Crossley pickup. If you firmly thought small trucks were strictly a European or Japanese concept, Powell Crossley would like to have a serious word with you. The Crossley pickup looks incredibly out of proportion, resembling a child's pedal car that somehow accidentally got approved for a real license plate. It was aggressively small, standing in stark, almost comical contrast to the massive chrome-covered, fuel-hungry land yachts that the traditional American auto industry was actively producing in the late 1940s. It proved that Americans could build tiny things too. Powell Crossley was an eccentric millionaire who made his massive fortune selling affordable radios and refrigerators, and he decided America urgently needed a cheap, micro-sized vehicle. The 1947 Crossley pickup was built in Indiana and weighed an astonishingly low 1,100 pounds. It was powered by an unbelievably tiny 724 cubic centimeter overhead cam four-cylinder engine that was actually highly advanced for its time, producing 26 horsepower. It possessed a stated quarter-ton payload capacity and was incredibly cheap for the average consumer to purchase. The absolute mind-blowing twist: Powell Crossley used his existing massive retail network to sell these little trucks. That means in the late 1940s, you could literally walk into a department store or an appliance shop to buy a new refrigerator and buy a Crossley pickup truck right there in the exact same aisle. It was so incredibly light that two strong men could easily pick up the back end and manually slide it around a parking lot. Now remember that trivia question? Here comes the high-revving sports car truck. The answer to our trivia is Mazda, and the truck is the absolutely legendary Mazda rotary pickup, widely known as the REPU. From the outside, it looks like a classic, very handsome 1970s mini truck equipped with some aggressive flared fenders and a bold front grille. It looks like it is ready to haul some dirt bikes out to the California desert. But under the hood, it hides a completely insane secret that makes it one of the most unique, high-performance commercial trucks in all of global automotive history. Produced from 1974 to 1977 exclusively for the North American market, the REPU weighed around 2,700 pounds and was famously powered by Mazda's legendary 13B Wankel rotary engine. Instead of standard pistons pumping up and down, it used triangular rotors spinning aggressively inside a housing. This meant the truck produced 110 horsepower and had an absurd 7,000 RPM redline. It did not sound like a work truck, it sounded like an angry swarm of bees, and it drove exactly like a lightweight sports car with a bed on the back. The fatal twist for the REPU was its incredibly poor timing. Rotary engines are wonderfully smooth and shockingly powerful, but they are notoriously thirsty for high-octane fuel. Mazda launched this fast, gas-guzzling, high-revving truck right in the middle of the catastrophic 1970s global energy crisis. Fuel prices skyrocketed overnight, and a small truck that got terrible gas mileage was suddenly the absolute last thing any American wanted to buy. Mazda did not just make rotary trucks, though. They made three-wheeled ones too, which we will see next. Enter the Mazda K360, a vehicle that completely defies all traditional American automotive logic. It looks like a small motorcycle and a miniature pickup truck had a very strange, highly compact baby. With two standard wheels in the back, just one single wheel in the front, and a tiny fully enclosed cabin that looks suspiciously like a helicopter bubble canopy. The K360 is an absolute masterpiece of bizarre Japanese spatial efficiency. It makes a classic VW Beetle look like a massive luxury Land Cruiser. Introduced in 1959, this was a strict K-truck designed to comply with rigid Japanese government regulations regarding maximum vehicle size and engine displacement. Weighing just 1,069 pounds, it was powered by a tiny 356 cubic centimeter air-cooled V-twin engine mounted right behind the driver, producing a mighty 16 horsepower. The three-wheeled design was not just for quirky looks, it gave the truck a ridiculously tight turning radius, allowing it to navigate the extremely narrow, heavily crowded alleys of post-war Japanese cities with absolute ease. The terrifying twist: basic physics. Three-wheeled vehicles with a single wheel in the front are inherently highly unstable. If you took a sharp corner a little too fast in a Mazda K360, especially with a top-heavy payload in the back, the entire truck would easily tip right over onto its side. It was a brilliant, highly efficient city vehicle, but an absolute rolling nightmare for high-speed highway stability. But our 10th and final truck takes the three-wheel concept to an absolutely terrifying level. It is time to reveal the monster. Here it is, the Bond minicar pickup. This absolutely horrifying British monstrosity is easily the weirdest, most terrifying excuse for a pickup truck ever conceived by mankind. It has a sharp wedge-like front end, only 3 wheels, and a body made largely out of fiberglass and cheap aluminum. It does not look like a functional commercial truck. It genuinely looks like a broken carnival ride that somehow managed to escape the local fairgrounds. It is the truck I promised to reveal, and its engineering will blow your mind. Built in the 1950s by Sharp's Commercials in the United Kingdom, the Bond minicar was explicitly designed to be legally driven by people who only possessed a basic motorcycle license. To achieve this legal loophole, it used a tiny Villiers 2-stroke motorcycle engine, displacing around 197 cubic centimeters and producing a laughable 8 horsepower. It weighed an unbelievable 430 pounds. It was incredibly light, incredibly cheap to buy, and offered a tiny payload area strictly intended for the absolute smallest of local urban deliveries. But here is the jaw-dropping, terrifying twist. The engine was not securely mounted under a traditional hood. It was mounted directly onto the single front wheel assembly. When you turn the steering wheel inside the cabin, the entire engine, the complete gearbox, and the front wheel all turned together. Because it used a basic motorcycle engine, early models did not even have a reverse gear. If you drove this truck into a tight parking spot, you literally had to get out, grab the side of the truck, and physically push it backwards yourself. From heavy American frames that literally bent in half to terrifying British engines that turned with the steering wheel, classic trucks were wildly experimental and deeply flawed. Which of these 10 bizarre pickup trucks would you actually want a daily drive? Let me know down in the comments right now. I would absolutely love to hear if you would risk your life driving the Bond minicar. If you enjoyed this deep dive into automotive history, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and I will see you next time. Welcome back to the channel. Have you ever looked at a vintage truck and thought, what on earth were the engineers thinking? We are not talking about your average pickup or highway semi. We are talking about the forgotten giants, the daring design experiments, and the mechanical oddities that time almost erased. Today, we are unveiling 10 of the most bizarre vintage trucks and heavy machines you have likely never seen before. From fire trucks powered by literal jet engines to Soviet off-road beasts that defy the laws of physics, these vehicles are the definition of strange. Which one of these mechanical marvels is your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. Buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into the weird world of heavy machinery. Let's start our list with something that sounds more like an aircraft than a fire truck. In the swinging 60s, American LaFrance wanted to solve a critical problem: speed. Meet the Aero Chief. This wasn't just a truck. It was a vision of the future powered by a genuine Boeing gas turbine engine. Yes, you heard that right. A jet engine in a fire truck. The design was incredibly sleek and aerodynamic, featuring a low profile and a wide, expansive windshield that looked like it belonged on a spaceship rather than a municipal vehicle. It represented the jet age optimism where engineers believed turbines were the future of all transportation. The turbine engine offered an immense power-to-weight ratio, producing 325 horsepower but with massive torque, allowing the 30,000-pound Aero Chief to accelerate from 0 to 50 miles per hour in roughly 30 seconds, twice as fast as the diesel trucks of the day. It produced a distinctive high-pitched whine that sounded like a plane taking off, alerting everyone for miles. However, the engineering reality was harsh. The exhaust heat was so intense it could melt asphalt or singe pedestrians standing too close behind it. Plus, the engine guzzled fuel at an alarming rate, making it expensive to idle at emergency scenes. Despite its futuristic appeal, the Aero Chief didn't take over the world as predicted. The high cost of maintenance and the practical dangers of running a jet engine on city streets meant only a handful were ever built and sold to fire departments. Today, seeing one is a rare treat for automotive enthusiasts. It stands as a bold experiment in American history, proving that sometimes engineers are willing to try absolutely anything in the name of performance. But if you think a jet-powered fire truck is wild, wait until you see the next machine. It looks less like a truck and more like a sci-fi fortress. If the Aero Chief was the jet age, the Rosenbauer Simba is pure science fiction brought to life. Designed specifically for airport rescue and firefighting, ARFF, this Austrian-made beast is one of the most visually striking crash tenders ever built. When you see the Simba 666, you don't see a standard truck. You see a geometric fortress on wheels. Its angular composite body and massive glass cockpit give it an appearance that is both intimidating and incredibly futuristic. It looks like a vehicle designed to explore the surface of Mars rather than patrol a runway in Frankfurt or Munich. Underneath that alien exterior lies a marvel of heavy engineering. The Simba is built on a massive Titan chassis with an 6x6 drivetrain. It carries over 3,000 gallons of water and foam, ready to unleash a torrent capable of extinguishing jet fuel fires in seconds. Powered by massive twin V8 engines churning out over 1,200 horsepower, this 40-ton giant can accelerate from 0 to 50 miles per hour in under 25 seconds, ensuring it reaches any crash site rapidly. The driver sits centrally in a wide cockpit with panoramic visibility, which is essential for maneuvering around burning aircraft and coordinating rescue teams. The Rosenbauer Simba set the global standard for airport safety vehicles in the 1980s and 90s. It combined raw power with advanced composite materials, proving that form and function can coexist in the most extreme environments. While newer models have replaced it, the original Simba remains a legend. From the wide-open runways, we now squeeze into the narrow streets of Britain to meet a truck with a very peculiar three-penny face. Navigating the tight, winding streets of post-war Britain required a special kind of vehicle, and the Austin FG was the unique answer. Launched in 1959, this truck quickly earned the nickname the Threepenny Bit because its angular cab resembled the British 12-sided coin used at the time. But this weird shape wasn't just for looks. It was a brilliant safety feature designed for urban environments. The distinct angles allowed the designers to place additional windows in places no other truck had them, giving the driver unparalleled visibility in crowded city centers. The design featured curbside windows located low down in the front footwells on both sides. These small glass panels allowed the driver to see the pavement clearly, spotting children, pedestrians, or cyclists in what would normally be a dangerous blind spot. The doors were another quirk. They were rear-hinged suicide doors that were cut at an angle specifically so they wouldn't project beyond the width of the body when opened. This allowed the driver to step out easily in narrow alleyways without swinging the door wide open into oncoming traffic. Mechanically, the Austin FG was a true workhorse, usually powered by a reliable BMC petrol or diesel engine. However, the engine was mounted practically inside the cabin between the seats, making it incredibly noisy and hot for the driver. Drivers often joke that the cab was the heater. Despite the discomfort, its maneuverability was unmatched. It delivered everything from coal to bread across the UK for decades, becoming an unsung hero of the working class. The Austin FG was a British icon, but it wasn't the only one with a strange nose. Our next truck looks like it ran into a wall and just kept going. Staying in the UK, we encounter the Bedford CA, the vehicle that arguably revolutionized the light commercial van market from 1952 to 1969. The CA has a face you can't forget, a distinctively short, pug-nosed bonnet that gives it a friendly, almost cartoonish appearance. This semi-forward control design was groundbreaking because it maximized cargo space in the back while keeping the overall vehicle length compact. This made it the perfect tool for the delivery boom of the 1950s, allowing businesses to transport more goods with a smaller footprint. The Bedford CA was famously versatile and came in various chassis lengths. It was the base for the iconic Dormobile camper van, introducing thousands of families to the joys of the van life long before it became a popular hashtag on social media. One of its most beloved features was the sliding front doors. Unlike standard hinge doors, these slid back along the body, allowing drivers to hop in and out quickly during multi-stop routes. This feature made it an absolute favorite for milkmen, postal workers, and laundry services across the country. Under the hood was a robust inline-4 engine that was easy to repair and cheap to maintain. The Bedford CA featured independent front suspension, which gave it a surprisingly car-like ride compared to the rigid trucks of its era. While it might look quaint today with its split windshield and tiny 13-inch wheels, it was the backbone of British small business and paved the way for the modern Ford Transit. Now, let's cross the Atlantic to the land of wide highways, where one truck decided that aerodynamics was just a suggestion. In the late 1950s, American trucking regulations placed strict limits on the overall length of a rig, comprising both the tractor and the trailer. To maximize the trailer length and increase profits, engineers had to drastically shrink the truck itself. Enter the 1959 GMC Cracker Box. Officially known as the DLR 8000 series, this truck earned its nickname because it looked exactly like a square aluminum cracker box. There were absolutely no curves, just a flat, vertical face pushing against the wind, a design that prioritized dimensions over drag coefficient. The Cracker Box was an exercise in extreme space saving. The cabin measured only 48 inches from the front bumper to the back of the cab. This ultra-short bumper-to-back-of-cab dimension allowed haulers to pull longer trailers while staying legal. However, the ride was notoriously rough. Sitting directly over the front axle in a lightweight aluminum box meant the driver felt every bump, pothole, and pebble in the road. It was also incredibly loud and hot, with the massive Detroit diesel engine roaring right beneath the driver's seat with minimal insulation. Despite the discomfort, the Cracker Box was a marvel of lightweight construction. The extensive use of aluminum in the cab and frame allowed for heavier payloads, making it highly profitable for fleet owners. It featured a unique air suspension system in later models to try and mitigate the harsh ride, but it remained a challenge to drive. It represents a specific era in American logistics where efficiency trumped driver comfort every time. The Cracker Box was tough, but it had a rival. A rival with a bulldog on the hood and a reputation for being absolutely unkillable. When you think of American trucking, you think of Mack. In the cab-over-engine era of the 1960s and 70s, the Mack F model was the undisputed king of the fleet. Produced from the 1960s through the early 80s, the F model was built like a tank. It featured a flat nose, a massive radiator grille, and that iconic gold or chrome bulldog ornament leading the way. While it shared the flat front aesthetic of the Cracker Box, the Mack F model was heavier, sturdier, and built for the punishing long haul across the interstate highway system. The F model was famous for introducing the revolutionary Maxidine engine and Maxitorque transmission combination. Before this, drivers had to shift gears constantly to keep the engine in its power band. The Mack powertrain offered incredible low-end torque, meaning drivers had to shift gears far less often, a huge relief in the days of manual trucking. The interior was Spartan, functional, and tight, with a dashboard made of flat metal sheets and simple gauges. To the old-school trucker, it wasn't luxury, it was a reliable home office. This truck became a pop culture icon, appearing in numerous movies and TV shows as the quintessential big rig. It wasn't the most comfortable ride, and climbing into the high cab using the wheel hub as a step was a workout in itself, but it earned the respect of everyone on the road. The Mack F model is a testament to the slogan "built like a Mack truck," surviving long after its competitors rusted away. Mack had the East Coast locked down, but out west, another giant was rising. A truck that turned heavy haulage into an art form. If the Mack was the Bulldog, the Kenworth K100 was the Eagle. Originating from the West Coast, Kenworth built trucks that were custom-made to conquer the Rocky Mountains. The K100 Cabover is perhaps one of the most beautiful trucks ever designed. With its flat face, dual headlights, and often elaborate paint schemes, it became the poster child for the American trucking boom of the 1970s. It was versatile, used for everything from logging in the Pacific Northwest to cross-country freight hauling. The K100 was designed with the long-haul driver in mind. Unlike the Spartan Mack, Kenworth focused on comfort and customization. In 1976, they introduced the Aerodyne sleeper cab, which featured a raised roof with skylights. This was a game-changer, offering unprecedented standing room and comfort, turning the cab into a mobile apartment rather than just a seat. Drivers could finally stand up to change their clothes, a luxury that was previously unheard of in cabover designs. This truck represents the golden age of trucking culture, the era of CB radios, convoys, and independent owner-operators. Its bolted frame and aluminum cab construction meant it was lightweight, yet incredibly strong. Today, a restored Kenworth K100 commands high prices and turns heads at every truck show, proving that style and substance can go hand in hand. While Kenworth ruled the highways, our next vehicle was quietly revolutionizing how packages arrived at your doorstep. It's the grandfather of the delivery van. You might not know the name, but you have definitely seen the shape. The Grumman-Olson curbside is the blueprint for every UPS or FedEx truck you see today. Its origin is fascinating. Grumman was primarily an aircraft manufacturer, famous for building fighter planes in World War II. After the war, they decided to apply their aviation expertise to the automotive world. The result was a delivery vehicle body made entirely of aluminum, a material they knew better than anyone else. The curbside was revolutionary because aluminum does not rust. In the snowy Rust Belt states, steel trucks would rot away in a few years due to road salt, but the aluminum Grumman kept going forever. Its design was purely functional: a sliding door for easy entry, a high roof so the driver could stand up and sort packages, and a thick rear bumper to handle city traffic. Built typically on a reliable Chevrolet chassis, it combined easy-to-find mechanical parts with an aerospace-grade body that was light and durable. These vans were virtually indestructible. Many produced in the 1950s and 60s are still on the road today, often converted into trendy food trucks or mobile boutiques. The curbside changed the logistics industry by proving that a higher upfront cost for an aluminum body paid off with decades of service life. It's a humble, boxy hero that literally delivered the modern economy to our front doors. So far, we've stuck to the roads, but what if there are no roads? Our next contender is a tiny Soviet machine that can go where no truck has gone before. Now we travel behind the Iron Curtain to examine the Louis 969Me, often known as the Volin. While it looks like a toy Jeep or a small utility vehicle, do not let its diminutive size fool you. This was a Soviet creation designed for the harshest rural conditions where paved roads simply did not exist. It is widely considered one of the most capable off-road vehicles of its size ever built, serving farmers, geologists, and the military alike. The Luaz is bizarre in its engineering choices. It is powered by a small air-cooled V4 engine mounted at the front, the same 40-horsepower engine used in the Zaporozhye city car. However, it features portal gear axles similar to the massive Unimog, which give it incredible ground clearance for such small wheels. It has independent suspension on all wheels and a locking rear differential. Its military sibling, the Luaz 967, was even amphibious, designed to float across rivers. The civilian 969 NAM kept the off-road DNA, capable of crawling through mud that would swallow a modern Land Rover whole. It's crude, noisy, and vibrates like a jackhammer, but it is unstoppable. The interior is essentially bare metal, and the comfort level is non-existent. Yet in the rural villages of Eastern Europe, the Luaz is a legend. It serves as a reminder of Soviet philosophy. It doesn't have to be pretty, and it doesn't have to be comfortable. It just has to work where nothing else can. The Luaz is a tiny off-road warrior, but our final truck is a gargantuan monster. A 12-cylinder giant that eats terrain for breakfast. We finish our list with the undisputed king of off-road heavy trucks, the Czechoslovakian Tatra 111. Produced during and after W2, the Tatra 111 is an engineering masterpiece that defies convention. While most trucks use a flexible ladder frame, the Tatra uses a unique backbone tube chassis. The driveshaft runs inside a massive central structural tube, protecting it from damage, while the swing axles move independently. This allows the Tatra to keep its wheels on the ground over the roughest boulders and ditches imaginable without twisting the frame. But the real magic is the engine. It is powered by a massive 14.8-liter V12 diesel engine that is entirely air-cooled. That's right, no radiator, no water pump, no coolant to freeze in the bitter Siberian winter or boil over in the desert heat. This made the Tatra 111 incredibly reliable in extreme climates. It produced around 180 horsepower, which was immense for its time and could carry payloads of over 10 tons across terrain where men found it hard to walk. It was so vital to the construction of the Soviet Union that a monument of it stands in Magadan, Siberia. The sight of a Tatra 111 with its wheels angled inward, positive camber, when unladen is unforgettable. It is a truck that was built to last forever, and many are still running today, maintained by devoted enthusiasts. It is the perfect example of how thinking outside the box, or in this case, inside the tube, can create a legend. From the jet-powered Aero Chief to the unbreakable Tatra 111, these 10 vehicles prove that automotive history is full of wild experiments. Whether born from war or pure imagination, each machine has a unique story. Now, I want to hear from you. Which truck was the weirdest? Would you drive the tiny Luaz or the massive Rosenbauer Simba? Drop your choice in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please smash that like button and subscribe for more mechanical marvels. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Prepare to have your mind completely blown because everything you thought you knew about classic pickup trucks is a total lie. Forget the boring, identical metal boxes driving around today. Decades ago, automotive engineering was an absolutely lawless wasteland of bizarre ideas, terrifying physics, and spectacular, dangerous failures. Today, we expose the 10 most bizarre classic pickup trucks ever unleashed on the pavement. We are talking about dangerously unbalanced machines requiring massive steel counterweights, luxury cars violently chopped in half, and terrifying three-wheeled haulers that were essentially a death wish on the highway. You will not believe the sheer engineering insanity hiding at the #1 spot. Stick around until the very end and please smash that subscribe button. Kicking off our list at number 10 is the 1958 Chevrolet Apache Fleetside, a truck that signaled a massive shift in how Americans viewed utility vehicles. Before the late 50s, trucks were purely agricultural or industrial tools, built with simple, narrow cargo boxes and bulging rear fenders known as step sides. But Chevrolet decided it was time to bring passenger car styling to the job site. They introduced the Fleetside, featuring smooth, slab-sided bed walls that integrated perfectly with the cab. To add to the flair, they slapped on a massive chrome-heavy front grille and dual-quad headlights. While it might look relatively normal to our modern eyes, back in 1958, this was a radical departure from the norm. It was a bold statement that a truck did not have to be ugly to be useful. Underneath the stylish exterior, it still possessed the rugged Task Force chassis and a reliable V8 engine, making it a highly capable worker. However, its heavy reliance on chrome and stylized body lines meant that owners were suddenly much more hesitant to toss heavy gravel or metal tools into the back, shifting the truck's primary purpose forever. What is truly shocking about the Apache fleet side today is its meteoric rise in the collector car market. Back in 1958, you could drive one of these off the dealer lot for around $2,000, making it a very affordable tool for the working class. Today, because of its iconic quad headlight design and historical significance, a beautifully restored Apache will easily command over $60,000 at auction. If you think those quad headlights were a bold design choice, just wait until you see how Chevrolet tried to put sports car fiberglass on a pickup. Coming in at number 9 is the Chevrolet Cameo Carrier, introduced in 1955, which represents one of the most fascinating failed experiments in truck history. Chevrolet wanted a premium truck that looked as smooth as a Bel Air, but stamping entirely new steel bedsides for a low-production luxury truck was simply too expensive. Their bizarre solution: they took a standard narrow step-side steel cargo box and bolted sleek, stylish fiberglass panels onto the outside of it. It featured a beautifully flush exterior, passenger car hubcaps, and a gorgeous two-tone paint job for the era. Unfortunately, this brilliant styling exercise quickly ran into harsh reality when owners tried to use it as an actual truck. This was a classic failed experiment in utility. The exterior fiberglass panels were notoriously fragile. If you accidentally dropped a heavy toolbox over the side or clipped a wooden fence post on the farm, the beautiful fiberglass would completely shatter or crack, requiring specialized and very expensive body repairs. Furthermore, because the fiberglass was just a facade over a traditional narrow bed, you did not actually gain any extra cargo space despite the wide appearance. Because of its high initial price tag and its absolute lack of practical durability, the Cameo Carrier was swiftly discontinued after just a few years of limited production. However, this failure in the 1950s translates to massive price shocks today. Its extreme rarity and undeniable beauty have made it a holy grail for classic car collectors. While it originally cost around $2,000, finding a pristine Chevrolet Cameo today will easily drain over $70,000 from your bank account. Chevy was not the only one trying to make trucks fancy in weird ways. At number 8, we have the Dodge B-Series, affectionately known as the Pilot House, built between 1948 and 1953. In the post-war era, truck manufacturers were desperately looking for ways to make their vehicles safer and much easier to drive. Dodge's engineering team decided that the absolute biggest problem with trucks was a lack of visibility. Their solution was to completely redesign the cab, moving the front axle back and the engine forward, which allowed them to push the passenger cab higher and further up the chassis to give the driver a better vantage point. They then wrapped the entire cab in an enormous amount of glass, including massive rear quarter windows, creating what they heavily marketed as the Pilot House cab for its airplane-like 360-degree visibility. While the visibility was undeniably fantastic, the design became a textbook failed experiment in automotive aesthetics. By raising the cab and making it so tall and upright, the truck looked incredibly awkward and very top-heavy, compared to the sleek, lower-slung designs that were rapidly emerging from competitors like Ford and Chevrolet at the very same time. Drivers appreciated being able to see out of the massive windows, but buyers simply did not want to be seen driving something that looked so utterly disproportionate. The tall, boxy cab alienated a large portion of the consumer base. Ultimately, the Pilot House lost the sales war, as form triumphed over pure function. Today, they remain a quirky piece of automotive history, starting to gain a cult following among vintage truck enthusiasts. But while Dodge was building literal glass houses on wheels, another company decided to chop a luxury car in half to create our next weird machine. Number 7 brings us to the luxurious and incredibly strange Hudson Big Boy, produced primarily from 1939 through 1947. Long before Chevrolet invented the El Camino or Ford brought us the Ranchero, Hudson decided to blend the comfort of a premium passenger car with the utility of a heavy pickup truck. They essentially took the front end of their luxurious Commodore sedan and grafted on a massive heavy-duty 3/4-ton cargo bed. The result was a truck that featured gorgeous aerodynamic Art Deco car styling up front, complete with a lavishly appointed interior. However, the Hudson Big Boy was a magnificent failed experiment in market placement. Hudson equipped the truck with an independent front suspension, an absolute rarity for work vehicles at the time, which gave it an incredibly smooth car-like ride. The problem was the target audience. Farmers and construction workers did not want to pay a premium for a luxury ride in fancy chrome. They wanted cheap, indestructible solid axles. Conversely, the wealthy buyers who could afford a Hudson had absolutely no need for a massive cargo bed to haul dirty manure or heavy lumber. Because it failed to capture a significant audience, production numbers for the Hudson Big Boy were incredibly low, making it one of the rarest classic trucks in existence today. Prepare for a massive price shock. While it struggled to find buyers when it was brand new, classic car collectors today will fiercely bid well over $50,000 for a well-preserved or fully restored example of this luxurious oddity. Speaking of absolute luxury, what happens when you take the most ridiculous car styling trend of the 1950s and glue it onto a farm truck? Enter the swept side. Our number 6 spot goes to the absurd and glorious 1957 Dodge swept side, a vehicle that represents the absolute peak of automotive excess. During this era, America was utterly obsessed with the jet age and space exploration, which translated into cars with massive soaring tail fins. Dodge executives looked at their rather plain lineup of pickup trucks, looked at the wildly popular cars from Chevrolet and Ford, and made a desperate, bizarre decision. They took the massive sweeping fiberglass tail fins straight off their two-door station wagons and literally bolted them onto a standard half-ton pickup truck bed. The result was a glorious failed experiment where form aggressively overtook function. The swept side looked like a futuristic spaceship from the rear and a boring tractor from the front. But those massive station wagon fins severely intruded on the interior cargo space, making the actual bed incredibly narrow and frustratingly impractical for anyone who actually needed to haul wide loads. It was a truck designed purely for show, complete with extravagant two-tone paint jobs, wide white wall tires, and heavy chrome trim. Be honest, would you drive a truck with massive tail fins today? Let me know in the comments. Unsurprisingly, the truck-buying public was not impressed. The swept side was expensive, impractical, and suffered from terrible sales, leading Dodge to pull the plug after just a few years of very limited production. But here is the ultimate price shock. Because it was such a sales disaster, very few survive today. A pristine Dodge swept side is now considered an automotive unicorn, frequently commanding eye-watering prices upwards of $80,000 to $100,000 at premium auctions. Tail fins are weird, but at least the engine was in the right place. Our next truck completely flipped the script. At number 5 is the incredibly sketchy 1961 Ford Econoline pickup, a vehicle that completely redefined the concept of weight distribution. Inspired by the strict need for maximum cargo space and a compact footprint, Ford utilized a cab-over design. They pushed the driver and passenger all the way to the absolute front edge of the vehicle and shoved the engine directly between the seats inside the passenger cab. This layout created a massive uninterrupted flatbed in the rear, perfect for hauling large items while keeping the truck's overall length surprisingly short and easy to park. However, this brilliant packaging led to a genuinely terrifying failed experiment in physics. Because the heavy engine, the transmission, and the passengers were all located entirely in front of the front axle, the rear end of the Econoline pickup was practically weightless. It was so completely unbalanced that during hard braking, especially when the bed was empty, the rear wheels would literally lift off the ground. Ford's official, historically documented solution was to bolt a massive 165-pound solid steel counterweight directly over the rear axle at the factory to prevent nose stands. Despite its dangerous handling quirks and the roaring engine cooking the passengers in the summer heat, the Econoline pickup survived its era as a niche work vehicle. The price shock here comes from modern hipster and surf culture. These bizarre, snub-nosed trucks have become retro-cool icons. What was once a cheap, terrifying work truck now regularly sells for $30,000 to $40,000 to enthusiasts who absolutely love their unique, boxy charm. Ford's cab-over was sketchy, but the Germans took the rear-engine truck idea and made it an absolute global icon. Number 4 is the legendary Volkswagen Type 2 pickup, a vehicle that took standard American truck engineering and threw it entirely out the window. Based on the iconic VW microbus, this pickup featured a completely bizarre layout with an air-cooled flat-4 engine hidden entirely in the back, tucked neatly underneath the cargo bed. To strictly maximize utility, Volkswagen designed the truck with drop-down sides. The rear tailgate as well as both side panels of the bed could fold completely flat, turning the truck into a massive rolling flatbed table that was easy to load. While highly innovative, the Volkswagen Type 2 was a major failed experiment when it came to heavy-duty American expectations. The engine compartment underneath the bed meant the load floor was awkwardly high, and there was a secondary storage locker located between the axles known as the treasure chest. More importantly, it was dangerously slow. Producing barely 40 horsepower in early models, its top speed was a miserable 50 miles per hour. Loading the bed with any serious weight meant crawling up hills at a snail's pace, making it woefully inadequate compared to Detroit V8 trucks. Yet this underpowered rear-engine oddity has experienced the most insane price shock of all. Embraced by the counterculture movement of the 1960s, the Type 2 became an enduring icon of peace, love, and surfing. Today, a pristine early-generation Volkswagen pickup, particularly the rare double cab versions, will easily fetch anywhere from $50,000 to well over $100,000, proving that character often outvalues pure horsepower. Volkswagen hid the engine in the back, but America's most famous off-road brand decided to shove the driver completely over the front axle. At number 3, we introduce the mind-bending Jeep FC150, an acronym that stands for Forward Control. Introduced in 1956 and designed by the legendary industrial designer Brooks Stevens, the FC150 is arguably the strangest-looking four-wheel drive vehicle ever mass-produced. Jeep essentially took their standard, highly capable CJ5 off-road chassis and bolted a cab entirely over the engine, pushing the front steel bumper directly below the driver's feet. This allowed Jeep to offer a full-sized 6-foot cargo bed on a tiny, incredibly maneuverable 81-inch wheelbase, making it a mountain goat on rocky trails. However, the FC150 was a massive failed experiment in driver psychology and highway stability. From the driver's seat, there was absolutely no hood in front of you. You were staring straight down at the speeding pavement. When you hit the brakes, the visual sensation was utterly terrifying, as if you were about to pitch forward directly over the bumper and smash your face into the asphalt. Furthermore, its incredibly short wheelbase and narrow track width meant that the vehicle felt incredibly top-heavy and dangerously unstable at highway speeds, relegating it strictly to slow farm work. Because it was too weird and intimidating for the mainstream American truck buyer, the FC series never sold in massive numbers and was quietly discontinued. But today comes the inevitable price shock. Classic Jeep enthusiasts go absolutely crazy for these bizarre pug-nosed trucks. A well-restored Jeep FC150 is incredibly rare today and will easily command $40,000 to $60,000 as collectors desperately hunt for this odd piece of history. Jeep's proportions were bizarre, but Chevrolet's next attempt at a rear-engine truck included a feature so weird it is a miracle it was ever built. Our runner-up for the weirdest classic truck is the 1961 Corvair 95 Rampside, a vehicle that Chevrolet built to compete directly with the Volkswagen Type 2. Like the VW, the Rampside featured a rear-mounted, air-cooled flat-six engine tucked under the back of the bed. But Chevrolet engineers wanted to solve the issue of a high-load floor, so they created a wildly unique bi-level bed. The rear section over the engine was raised, but the middle section dropped down low. To maximize this, they cut a massive door into the side that folded down. While the built-in side ramp was an ingenious idea for rolling heavy appliances or motorcycles directly into the bed, The Corvair rampside was a catastrophic failed experiment in overall utility. The bizarre bi-level floor made hauling standard building materials like rigid plywood, long metal pipes, or sheets of drywall incredibly frustrating, as the cargo would sit unevenly across the huge engine hump in the back. Furthermore, the handling of the rear-engine Corvair platform was notoriously tricky, making it deeply unpopular with traditional truck buyers who simply demanded flat, simple steel cargo boxes for real work. Despite being a commercial flop with a very short production run, the rampside's sheer weirdness has made it highly collectible today. The price shock is absolutely real. While they were practically given away to scrapyards in the 1970s, a clean, functioning rampside today will easily pull $30,000 to $50,000 from collectors who desperately want the ultimate tailgate party conversation piece. A side ramp is definitely crazy, but our final truck makes all of these look completely normal. It is tiny, it has exactly 3 wheels, and it barely qualifies as a truck. Taking the crown for the absolute most bizarre classic pickup truck you have never seen is the Daihatsu Midget MP5 from the late 1950s and 60s. This Japanese import is a micro truck that looks like it escaped from an amusement park ride. It features a tiny enclosed single-seat cabin, an incredibly small cargo bed, and exactly 3 wheels. Powered by a microscopic air-cooled engine that produced barely 12 horsepower, the Midget was intelligently designed to navigate the incredibly narrow, bomb-damaged alleyways and tight city streets of post-war Japan, where full-size trucks would physically get stuck. While brilliant for its home market, the Daihatsu Midget was a hilariously terrifying failed experiment when a few of them inevitably made their way over to the United States. Attempting to drive this 3-wheeled, ultra-lightweight, painfully slow micro-truck on wide, fast-paced American roads alongside massive V8 sedans and heavy-duty semi-trucks was essentially a total death wish. They possessed absolutely zero safety features, could be blown over by a strong gust of wind or a passing truck, and had a top speed of roughly 40 miles per hour, struggling to safely keep up with any modern traffic. Yet, prepare for the final, most absurd price shock. Because they are so incredibly rare in America, so unbelievably strange to look at, and so charmingly tiny, they have become massive hits in the micro-car collector community. Originally costing literally pennies to build as cheap disposable utility runabouts, a well-preserved Daihatsu Midget MP5 today can easily sell for $15,000 to $25,000. That is an absurd amount of money for what is essentially a street-legal 3-wheeled golf cart. It truly proves that weirdness sells. So there you have it, the 10 most bizarre classic pickup trucks to ever hit the American pavement. From massive station wagon tail fins and clever built-in side ramps to terrifying 3-wheeled micro-haulers and dangerously unbalanced cab-overs, automotive history is definitely much weirder than we ever imagined. Now it is your turn to join the conversation. If you were forced to daily drive one of these crazy machines on the highway today, which one are you picking? Let me know down in the comments. Subscribe and like for more awesome history. Think your standard pickup truck is big? Think again. Today we are exploring the top 10 absolute biggest pickup trucks in the world ever built. We are talking about towering commercial behemoths, apocalyptic 6-wheel monsters, and vehicles so massive they make a Ford F-150 look like a toy. These are street-legal titans that completely dominate the asphalt. Wait until you see the beast sitting at number 1. You literally need a stepladder just to open the door. Smash that subscribe button right now and let us know in the comments, which gigantic truck would you daily drive? Let's begin. Starting off our list at number 10, we have a truck that basically birthed the luxury monster truck craze, the International CXT. Standing for Commercial Extreme Truck, this colossal machine is built directly on a 7300 series severe-duty dump truck chassis. Measuring a staggering 21.5 feet in length and standing over 9 feet tall, it dwarfs absolutely everything else in the grocery store parking lot. Powered by a legendary 7.6-liter inline-six diesel engine, it does not just look like a semi-truck, it has the heart of one. The massive tires are easily chest-high on an average adult. However, driving a commercial dump truck in disguise comes with some hilariously painful daily struggles. The CXT tips the scales at an unbelievable 14,500 pounds when completely empty. Because of its sheer mass and commercial gearing, the fuel economy is nothing short of tragic, averaging somewhere around 8 to 10 miles per gallon. The turning radius is practically the size of a football field. Want to grab a quick coffee at a drive-thru? Forget about it. The CXT will obliterate the height restriction bar. You must plan your routes meticulously to avoid tight city streets. When it comes to the price tag, this level of sheer intimidation does not come cheap. Back in the 2000s when it debuted, the base price hovered around $93,000. But fully loaded with luxury leather, wood trim, and rear seat entertainment, it easily crested $120,000. Today, they are rare collector's items that command massive respect. Driving one guarantees you own the road, but your wallet will definitely feel the pain at the fuel pump. If you think the CXT is a handful, just wait until you see its militarized brother coming up next. Moving to number 9, we introduce the International MXT, the sleeker but equally terrifying sibling of the CXT. Standing for a military extreme truck, one look at this beast tells you exactly why. While it sits slightly lower to the ground, it boasts an incredibly wide, aggressive stance that looks ready to storm a battlefield. Under the hood, you will find a 6-liter V8 diesel engine pumping out 300 horsepower and 530 pound-feet of torque. Visually, the MXT looks like a high-tech armored personnel carrier. The hood alone is so wide you could land a helicopter. Despite its undeniable cool factor, daily driving the MXT introduces a fatal flaw that owners simply cannot escape: its sheer width. Driving the MXT down a standard 2-lane road feels like threading a needle while wearing boxing gloves. You will constantly be checking your side mirrors, praying you do not accidentally push a compact car into a ditch. Parking is a genuine nightmare. You cannot simply pull into a regular spot. You must take up at least 2 spaces. With a ride quality designed to survive explosive blasts, do not expect a smooth highway cruise. You feel every bump. So, what does military-grade street legality cost? When new, the International MXT would set you back anywhere from $89,500 to a staggering $130,000, depending on the armor and luxury options you demanded. It is an incredibly expensive way to terrify your neighbors and dominate local traffic. They are extremely rare to see on public roads today. But what if you want heavy-duty commercial towing capabilities blended with the interior of a private jet? Let me introduce you to the absolute luxury monster waiting for you at number 8. At number 8, we step into the realm of ultra-luxury towing with the Freightliner Sport Chassis P4XL. This is not just a truck. It is a luxury apartment on wheels capable of dragging a house. Built on a business-class chassis, the P4XL is powered by an earth-shaking 8.3-liter diesel engine, delivering 350 horsepower and over 1,000 pound-feet of torque. This truck is so massive that it utilizes a specialized air ride suspension to keep the cabin comfortable. Imagine sitting behind the wheel of a legitimate 18-wheeler, but surrounded by hand-stitched Italian leather and premium noise-canceling cabin insulation. The fatal flaw of the Sport Chassis P4XL lies in its terrifyingly deceptive speed and momentum. When you are wrapped in ultra-luxury and floating on air suspension, it is very easy to forget you are piloting a 14,000-pound missile. Stopping this enormous amount of mass requires serious pre-planning. If someone cuts you off in traffic, slamming on the brakes feels like trying to halt a runaway freight train. Furthermore, any maintenance requires a trip to a commercial semi-truck facility. You cannot simply roll this beast into a local quick lube shop. They would not have a capable lift. To own the absolute king of luxury towing, you need a massive bank account to match its size. The base price for a Freightliner Sport Chassis P4XL routinely exceeds $200,000, and customized variants can easily push past $250,000. It is the ultimate flex for the wealthy equestrian or professional boat owner who needs to haul heavy loads cross-country. However, if you think spending over $200,000 on a commercial truck is crazy, Wait until you see the insane custom culture surrounding the legendary pickup truck at number 7. Roaring into the number 7 spot is the undisputed king of custom monster trucks, the Ford F-650 Super Duty. Technically classified as a medium-duty commercial vehicle, automotive enthusiasts have completely transformed the F-650 into the ultimate status symbol. Underneath that towering hood lies the legendary 6.7-liter Powerstroke V8 diesel engine, capable of moving actual mountains. What makes the F-650 so terrifyingly large is the sheer height. With custom suspension lift kits, the roof of this massive truck can easily clear 10 feet. The massive chrome front grille looks exactly like a solid metal wall staring you down. However, the everyday reality of owning a custom F-650 is a hilarious mix of awe and utter inconvenience. The most obvious fatal flaw is simply getting inside. If you forget to install motorized drop-down steps, you literally need a ladder to enter the cabin. Imagine trying to look cool on a date, only to rock climb your way into the passenger seat. Additionally, visibility directly in front of the massive hood is essentially zero. You could easily hide a small sports car in the front blind spot, making tight traffic jams a sweat-inducing experience of blind faith and pure terror. The price of joining the exclusive F-650 club is incredibly steep. While a bare-bones commercial chassis might start around $65,000, nobody buys an F-650 to leave its stock. By the time custom tuning shops add 6-door cabin conversions, chrome exhaust stacks, and massive super single wheels, the final price tag skyrockets well over $150,000. It is a massive financial investment for a vehicle that barely fits on the road. But what if you want a massive truck that actually starred in a Hollywood blockbuster movie? Stick around for the machine at number 6. Landing at number 6 is the GMC Top Kick and its identical twin, the Chevrolet Kodiak C4500. This truck is so inherently aggressive that Michael Bay cast it as the weapon-toting Autobot Ironhide in the Transformers movie franchise. This medium-duty beast shares its DNA with commercial box trucks but packs a vicious 6.6-liter Duramax V8 engine. The design is unmistakably rugged, featuring a massive fiberglass hood that tips forward like a semi-truck to reveal the engine. It boasts a gross vehicle weight rating exceeding 17,000 pounds. The side view mirrors are practically the size of large flat-screen televisions. Yet, for all its cinematic glory, the Kodiak and Top Kick possess a glaring comedic weakness. They ride like an empty dump truck. Because the heavy-duty suspension is designed to haul literal tons of cargo, driving it without a heavy load in the bed will violently rattle your teeth. Going over a simple speed bump at anything faster than a crawl feels like experiencing a localized earthquake. On top of that, the interior is surprisingly basic. You will be bouncing around in a plastic-heavy utilitarian cabin while burning expensive diesel fuel at an incredibly alarming rate every single day. Finding a pristine C4 500 today is quite a challenge since General Motors ended production back in 2009. However, fully custom, well-maintained Ironhide movie replicas can easily command prices upwards of $100,000 on the used market. It is a legendary bone-shaking brute that turns heads everywhere it goes. But if you think a Hollywood movie truck is wild, you need to prepare yourself. At number 5, we are leaving normal reality behind entirely and entering the apocalypse with a 6-wheeled nightmare that looks like it belongs in a science fiction video game. Crashing into the number 5 spot is the wildest, most exotic truck on our list, the Apocalypse Hellfire 6x6. This is not a commercial work truck, it is a custom-built 6-wheel drive machine engineered for the end of the world. Built on the frame of a Jeep Gladiator, the mad scientists stretch the chassis, add a proprietary middle axle, and coat the entire exterior in 3-part Kevlar armor. Under the hood, you can opt for a supercharged 6.2-liter Hellcat V8 engine, producing a face-melting 750 horsepower. Sitting on 6 40-inch tires, it drives straight out of a movie. The fatal flaw of the Hellfire 6x6 is exactly what makes it so cool. It is aggressively, absurdly impractical. Trying to park a six-wheeled Kevlar-coated tank in a modern city is a recipe for a panic attack. The turning radius is absolutely non-existent, and the rear end stretches out so far that parallel parking is mathematically impossible. Furthermore, the constant attention you get is exhausting. You cannot stop at a gas station without a massive crowd of people surrounding the vehicle, taking photos and asking endless questions. It is a rolling spectacle that guarantees absolutely zero personal privacy. Surviving the apocalypse in a 750-horsepower 6x6 requires serious cash. The Apocalypse Hellfire starts around $155,000, and fully loaded Hellcat engine versions can easily smash the $250,000 barrier. It is an astronomical price for a weekend toy, but it absolutely guarantees you rule the road and survive any off-road obstacle. Now let us pivot from six-wheel fantasy builds back to a traditional four-wheel setup and take a close look at a factory-backed high-speed off-road titan sitting aggressively at the number 4 spot on our list. Taking the number 4 spot is a truck that combines massive heavy-duty scale with high-speed desert racing performance, the Shelby F250 Super Baja. When the legendary team at Shelby American gets their hands on a Ford Super Duty, the result is a massive, towering off-road weapon. They take the proven 6.7-liter turbo diesel engine, pumping out up to 1,200 pound-feet of torque, and pair it with a custom suspension system. Featuring a premium lift kit and race-adjustable shocks, this truck sits aggressively high on 37-inch mud-terrain tires. The hood scoop sits higher than most sports cars. However, daily driving the Shelby Super Baja reveals a hilarious paradox, far too huge to fit on most actual off-road trails. If you take this wide-body truck on a standard forest trail, the tree branches will absolutely destroy its beautiful, expensive paint job. It is too wide for narrow paths and way too heavy to glide over soft sand like a lightweight dune buggy. Therefore, most of these incredibly capable monsters live their lives entirely on the pavement, acting as oversized grocery getters with Baja-winning suspension underneath them. The absolute exclusivity and high-speed performance of the Shelby name always come at a premium. To get a Super Baja, you must first purchase a brand-new high-trim Ford F250 and then pay Shelby roughly $125,000 just for the conversion package. That puts the total price tag dangerously close to $200,000 for a truck you might be far too scared to ever scratch. But what if you want massive scale straight from the factory showroom without needing an aftermarket tuner? Enter the incredibly luxurious and gigantic dually waiting at number 3. Coming in at number 3 is the ultimate expression of factory-built heavy-duty luxury, the Chevrolet Silverado 3500 HD High Country Dually. While it does not have a commercial chassis, modern one-ton dually trucks have grown to absolute gargantuan proportions. Equipped with the latest 6.6-liter Duramax V8, this truck pushes 470 horsepower and an earth-moving 975 pound-feet of torque. What makes this truck so intimidating is its incredible width. Thanks to the dual rear wheels, the hips stretch over 8 feet wide. The massive chrome grille looks like a towering skyscraper driving down the highway. The fatal flaw of the modern dually is dealing with its colossal rear end. Driving this massive truck through a fast food drive-through lane is an extreme sport. You will constantly be sweating, checking your side mirrors to make sure those massive rear fenders are not scraping against the concrete barriers. Automatic car washes are strictly off limits. The dually hips are simply too wide to fit on the mechanical tracks. You are doomed to hand-washing acres of sheet metal every weekend. It is designed to tow heavy yachts, but it gets completely defeated by a narrow coffee shop lane. Because it comes fully loaded straight from the Chevrolet factory, you get cutting-edge technology and a leather-wrapped interior that rivals high-end German sedans. A fully loaded High Country dually will easily cost over $90,000 before dealer markups are even applied. It is huge, it is incredibly luxurious, and it represents the absolute peak of modern consumer towing capacity. However, this beautiful factory behemoth is really just a warm-up for the incredibly unique commercial pickup hybrid that is waiting to tear up the asphalt at the number 2 spot on our massive list today. At number 2, we have a fascinating and massive hybrid, the International CV515 4x4. This incredible machine is the direct result of a joint venture between International Trucks and General Motors, essentially creating a bridge between a hardcore commercial work truck and a comfortable consumer pickup. Powered by a heavy-duty variant of the 6.6-liter Duramax diesel engine, the CV515 features a forward-tilting commercial hood, giving you unhindered access to the engine bay. Sitting on a heavy-duty straight rail frame, its sheer height and rugged boxy aesthetic makes standard full-size pickup trucks look incredibly fragile and weak by comparison. The hilariously frustrating part of owning a CV515 is its severe identity crisis. Because it essentially uses a Chevrolet Silverado cab bolted onto a rigid commercial chassis, your passengers will expect a smooth, quiet ride. Instead, they are met with the harsh, unforgiving reality of a Class 5 commercial suspension. Furthermore, the truck is notoriously loud. Without the heavy sound-deadening insulation found in luxury trucks, the roar of the diesel engine and the whine of the heavy-duty transmission will dominate every single conversation inside the cabin. It is a blue-collar workhorse masquerading in a slightly polished business suit. Pricing for the International CV515 is highly variable because it is sold primarily as a chassis cab, meaning you have to pay a custom outfitter to build a specific bed for it. By the time you purchase the 4x4 chassis and add a custom hauler bed alongside a luxury interior conversion, the total price easily crosses the $100,000 mark. It is a massive, serious machine meant for extreme workloads and long highway hauls. But finally, it is time for the undisputed heavyweight king of luxury pickup giants to claim the top spot on our list. Finally, taking the number 1 spot as the ultimate, biggest, and most luxurious consumer pickup truck on the planet, the Ford F-450 Super Duty Limited. This is the absolute pinnacle of what you can buy from a dealership without a commercial driver's license. Underneath its aluminum alloy body is a high-output 6.7-liter Powerstroke V8, generating a mind-bending 500 horsepower and 1,200 pound-feet of torque. This truck boasts a maximum towing capacity of 40,000 pounds. Featuring a wide-track front axle and 19.5-inch commercial wheels, it is a chrome-covered titan that rules the fast lane. The fatal flaw of the F-450 Limited is the crushing anxiety of driving a vehicle that costs more than some houses, while constantly dealing with commercial vehicle dimensions. You are piloting a vehicle that is over 22 feet long and 8 feet wide, yet the interior is covered in delicate two-tone premium leather and massaging seats. You are absolutely terrified of getting a single scratch on the gorgeous exterior, yet forced to navigate tight parking lots meant for compact cars. Taking this luxury suite off-road or to a dirty construction site feels like committing an automotive crime. With a base price starting well over $100,000 for the fully loaded limited trim, the Ford F-450 Super Duty is the undeniable king of the road. It flawlessly combines the sheer size and raw towing capability of a commercial hauler with the advanced technology and plush comfort of a high-end luxury limousine. It is, without a shadow of a doubt, the ultimate street-legal behemoth. You sit high above standard traffic, commanding absolute respect wherever you drive. If you want the biggest, baddest luxury truck money can buy right off the lot, this is your answer. From the commercial-grade towering height of the International CXT to the apocalyptic six-wheel madness of the Hellfire and the ultimate luxury of the Ford F-450, these massive machines prove that on the American road, bigger is always better. The sheer scale and hilarious daily driving struggles make these trucks absolute legends. Which of these gargantuan monsters would you choose to daily drive? Let us know in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time. Forget everything you know about trucks. We are not talking about your grandfather's pickup. We are talking about mechanical freaks of nature. Have you ever seen a truck that walks over rocks like a spider? or a van with a two-stroke engine that smokes like a chimney. From Cold War secrets to three-wheeled oddities, these are the 10 most bizarre classic trucks that history tried to forget. These machines defy logic, physics, and sanity. You need to stay until the very last second because the engineering gets crazier with every entry. If you love discovering the weirdest machines on Earth, smash that subscribe button right now. Let's dive into the madness. We are kicking off this list with an American oddity from the late 1950s that looks like it is wearing a pair of extra glasses. Meet the International Harvester Sightliner. At first glance, you might think the designers made a terrible mistake. Why are there two extra windows cut into the bodywork right below the windshield? This wasn't a design flaw, it was a radical attempt to solve a major safety problem. In the tight city streets of the 1950s, drivers in high-cab over trucks could not see pedestrians or small cars directly in front of their massive steel bumpers. Mechanically, the Sightliner was an absolute beast tailored for the U.S. highway system. It was typically powered by the massive V401 or V549 gasoline V8 engines, churning out serious horsepower for its time. Officially known as the ACO series, its distinct compact design was a direct response to strict length regulations. The Sightliner measured only 48 inches from the bumper to the back of the cab. This ultra-short length allowed trucking companies to haul longer trailers while staying legally within the overall length limits of various states. It was a brilliant, albeit strange, example of government regulations dictating automotive design. However, the Sightliner did not stick around forever, and there were reasons for its disappearance. Drivers often complained about the excessive heat in the cabin because they were sitting directly on top of a roaring V8 engine with lots of glass letting in the sun. As length regulations relaxed and cab designs improved, the need for those lower sight windows vanished. Today, seeing a Sightliner at a classic truck show is an incredibly rare treat. It stands as a testament to a time when American engineers were not afraid to cut holes in a truck just to see if it worked. Crossing the Atlantic Ocean and the Iron Curtain, we find the Barkus B1000. While the Volkswagen bus was becoming a symbol of freedom and surfing in the West, the Barkus was the undisputed workhorse of East Germany. Produced from 1961 all the way until 1991, this van platform did absolutely everything behind the Berlin Wall. It served as an ambulance, a police van, a flatbed truck, and a delivery vehicle. Unlike the rear-engine VW, the Barkus utilized a front-wheel drive layout. This was actually revolutionary for a commercial van, allowing for a remarkably low and flat loading floor for easy cargo access. The engine of the Barkus is where things get truly bizarre by modern American standards. It was powered by a tiny two-stroke three-cylinder engine derived from the Wartburg car. Yes, a smoky two-stroke engine in a one-ton truck. This meant you had to mix oil with the gas, and it produced that signature ring-ding sound and a cloud of blue smoke. With only about 45 horsepower on tap, it was not going anywhere fast, but it was surprisingly torque-heavy. If the engine failed, the design was so simple that two people could literally lift the engine out of the chassis by hand. Despite its underpowered nature, the Barkus B1000 is a cult icon today, representing the ingenuity of engineers working with limited resources. It survived for decades with almost no significant changes, serving as a time capsule of communist engineering. While it lacked the comfort of American vans, it was incredibly durable and easy to fix on the side of the road. Today, collectors import them to the U.S. as unique show cars. Driving one requires patience and a tolerance for noise, but it guarantees you will be the only one at the car meet with a two-stroke van. When the Swedish military needs a truck, they do not mess around with weak designs. Enter the Volvo Laplander series, specifically the C303 model. At first glance, it looks like a brick on wheels. It is arguably one of the boxiest vehicles ever designed. Often nicknamed the Valp or Puppy in its earlier versions, this machine is an absolute monster off-road. It was explicitly designed to transport troops and equipment through the deep snow, frozen lakes, and dense forests of Scandinavia. It is high, narrow, and looks like it might tip over, but its stability is engineering magic. The secret weapon of the Laplander is its portal axles. In a normal American pickup truck, the axle creates a low point in the center of the vehicle that can easily get stuck on rocks or stumps. On the Laplander, the axle tube sits nearly 15 inches above the ground, and a set of gears in the wheel hub transfers the power down to the tire. This gives the truck massive ground clearance without needing monster truck tires. Combined with vacuum-operated differential lockers that can be engaged on the fly, the Laplander can crawl over rocks that would swallow a Jeep Wrangler whole. The driving position is also unique and terrifying. You sit forward of the front axle, meaning you are essentially the bumper. When descending a steep hill, you feel like you are diving face first into the ground. The Volvo Laplander has gained a legendary status among off-road enthusiasts worldwide for its durability and capability. While they are rare in the United States, they are highly sought after by extreme off-roaders who want a vehicle that is practically unstoppable right out of the factory. It proves that a box on wheels can be the ultimate adventure machine. During World War II, the British Army desperately needed a new general service truck, and Bedford answered the call with the QL. Known affectionately to soldiers as Queen Lizzie, this was Bedford's first ever commercial vehicle designed with four-wheel drive. Over 52,000 were built between 1941 and 1945 to support the Allied war effort. The most striking feature of the QL is its height. The cab sits incredibly high up, perched directly on top of the engine. Climbing into the driver's seat is more like ascending a ladder into a treehouse than getting into a standard military truck. This forward control design maximized cargo space on a relatively short wheelbase, allowing it to carry a 3-ton payload, but it made for a unique driving experience. Because you sat so high and the truck was relatively narrow, the sensation of body roll in corners was absolutely terrifying. Drivers reported that it felt like the truck was going to tip over at any moment, although it rarely did thanks to a heavy chassis. The gearbox was also notorious. Shifting gears required a specific rhythm and a lot of muscle, earning the respect and frustration of thousands of Allied soldiers. Despite its quirky ergonomics, the Bedford QL was incredibly robust and versatile. It carried troops, acted as a fuel tanker, served as a mobile office, and even towed anti-tank guns across North Africa and Europe. It represents the stiff upper lip of British wartime engineering, maybe not comfortable, maybe a bit odd-looking, but it absolutely got the job done when it mattered most. Many survived the war and were converted for civilian use, serving on farms for decades. It is a tall, awkward, but heroic piece of history. If the Bedford QL is a soldier, the Scammell Explorer is a tank in disguise. Built in the 1950s for the British Army, this 6x6 recovery vehicle is a mechanical masterpiece of brute force. It was designed to rescue other tanks and heavy trucks that had gotten stuck or broken down in the field. Visually, it is intimidating, with a massive protruding radiator grille and a purposeful, heavy-set stance. It weighs over 20 tons fully loaded and looks like it could smash through a brick wall without even scratching the paint. The real magic of the Explorer lies underneath the chassis, specifically in the rear suspension. It uses a walking beam system instead of standard springs. The rear wheels are attached to a massive beam that pivots in the center, allowing for insane articulation. One rear wheel can be 2 feet up in the air while the other is buried in a ditch, and both will still have traction. Powering this beast was the legendary Gardner 6LW diesel engine. It wasn't fast. Top speed was maybe 25 miles per hour downhill, but the torque was earth-shattering, allowing it to tow over 100 tons using low gears. Watching a Scammell Explorer move off-road is hypnotic. The rear wheels articulate and crawl over obstacles like a giant mechanical insect. It is a reminder of a time when trucks were over-engineered to last forever rather than designed for comfort or speed. The transmission gate was also gated, requiring skill to navigate, and the steering was unassisted, demanding serious arm strength from the driver. Today, these giants are kept alive by dedicated enthusiasts who appreciate the raw, unfiltered mechanical connection between man and machine. Is it a truck? Is it a go-kart? Is it a table with wheels? It is the M274 truck platform utility, better known to U.S. servicemen as the mechanical mule. Introduced in the late 1950s and used extensively during the Vietnam War, this is the definition of minimalism. The U.S. military wanted a vehicle that could carry heavy loads over rough terrain but was light enough to be dropped by parachute or carried underneath a helicopter. The result was literally a magnesium platform with 4 wheels and an engine underneath, weighing only about 900 pounds. There is no cab, there are no doors, there is not even a real seat, just a flimsy wire basket for the driver. But the engineering is brilliant. The mule features 4-wheel drive and amazingly 4-wheel steering. This allowed it to crab walk diagonally and make unbelievably tight turns in the jungle. Even stranger, the steering column could be unlatched and tilted forward to extend the wheelbase virtually. This allowed the driver to walk or crawl in front of the moving vehicle while controlling it, perfect for when you needed to use the mule as a shield in combat. Despite looking like a toy, the mule could carry more than its own weight in cargo, often hauling up to 1,000 pounds of ammo across terrain that would stop a jeep. It carried supplies, mounted recoilless rifles for fire support, and evacuated the wounded. It was eventually phased out in the 1980s for the Humvee, but nothing since has matched its sheer utility-to-weight ratio. It proves that you do not need complex computers or armor plating to be an effective military vehicle. Sometimes you just need a flat surface and 4 moving wheels. The Dutch are famous for their endless battle against water, but with the DAF YA-126, they decided to fight the terrain itself. Built in the 1950s as a weapons carrier for the Royal Netherlands Army, this truck looks fairly normal from the top down. However, underneath the chassis, it is an engineering freak of nature. Most 404 trucks use a drive shaft down the middle connected to axles at the front and back. The engineers at DAF said no to that conventional wisdom. Instead, they utilized a unique H-drive system derived from armored car technology. In the H-drive layout, there is no differential in the middle of the axle that could get snagged on rocks. Instead, the drive shafts run along the sides of the chassis, powering the wheels through a complex series of gears. But the weirdest feature is definitely the spare wheels. You will notice 2 spare tires mounted on the sides just behind the front cab. These aren't just for storage, they are actually mounted on free-rotating hubs that hang lower than the chassis. If the truck high centers on a ridge or a bump, these spare wheels act as landing gear, rolling the truck over the obstacle. This brilliant design made the YA-126 nearly unstoppable in uneven terrain. It could drag a 1-ton payload through mud that would stop a tank. It's a level of mechanical complexity that you just do not see anymore because it is incredibly expensive to build and maintain. But for a specific moment in history, DAF created the ultimate off-road spider. Today they are popular among European collectors, but finding parts for that insane drivetrain in the United States is a nightmare, making them a rare and fascinating sight on American soil. After World War II, Japan needed to rebuild its economy from the ground up. The streets were narrow, resources were scarce, and businesses needed a cheap way to move goods. Enter the K-truck revolution, led by the charming Mazda K360. Launched in 1959, this 3-wheeled truck looks less like a utility vehicle and more like a cartoon character come to life. With its rounded bathtub styling, bug-eye headlights, and friendly 2-tone paint jobs, it is undeniably adorable. But do not underestimate it. This little machine helped rebuild the Japanese economy. The K360 was powered by a tiny 3556 EC V-twin air-cooled engine mounted behind the cabin, the same spot you would find an engine in a supercar, technically making it a mid-engine vehicle. It produced a modest 11 to 16 horsepower depending on the year. Driving it was an exercise in balance. With only 1 wheel at the front, the turning radius was incredibly tight, making it perfect for the alleyways of Tokyo. However, take a corner too fast with an empty bed, and things could get tippy very quickly, requiring a steady hand on the horizontal steering wheel. The cabin was tiny, barely fitting 2 adults comfortably, but it was a step up from a bicycle or a motorcycle. Over 280,000 units were produced before production ended in 1969, replaced by four-wheeled trucks. Today, the K360 is a rare collector's item, celebrated not for its power but for its style and historical significance. It proved that you do not need big horsepower to make a big impact. While Americans were driving massive V8s, this little tricycle was carrying the weight of a nation's recovery on its small bed. You know the Vespa scooter, the symbol of Italian style, romance, and freedom. But did you know it has a hard-working brother? This is the Vespa ape, pronounced ape, which means bee in Italian, just as Vespa means wasp. Conceived by Enrico Piaggio right after the war, the idea was simple: take the front half of a scooter and weld a cargo box to the back half. It was the elegant solution for Italian merchants who could not afford a full-size truck, but needed to haul wine, cheese, and construction materials through ancient, narrow streets. The ape is primitive but effective. The driver sits on a saddle, in early models, or a simple bench, steering with handlebars just like a motorcycle. The engine is a small displacement two-stroke, often ranging from 50 cc to roughly 200 cc. It buzzes angrily as it carries loads that look physically impossible for its size, often hauling up to 1,000 pounds or more. Over the decades, the ape evolved, gaining a proper enclosed cab to protect the driver from the rain, but the basic three-wheel architecture has remained the same for over 70 years. It is one of the longest-running production vehicles in history because nothing else can do exactly what it does. It can squeeze through gaps that would stop a bicycle. In Italy, seeing an old man navigating a vertical cobblestone hill in a rusted ape loaded with firewood is a common sight. Recently, they have become trendy in the US as mobile coffee bars or Prosecco vans at weddings. It is the ultimate fusion of motorcycle freedom and truck utility, proving that three wheels are sometimes better than four. We end our list with one more survivor from East Germany, the multicar M22. While the Barcus was the delivery van, the multicar was the heavy-duty industrial worker, shrunk down to miniature size. Produced in the 1960s and 70s, the M22 looks like someone put a full-size dump truck into a shrinking machine. It has a tiny single-person enclosed cab sitting right next to a noisy engine. It was ubiquitous in Eastern Bloc factories, airports, and construction sites, handling the dirty work that required a compact footprint. The M22 was powered by an air-cooled V-twin diesel engine producing about 15 horsepower. It was definitely not built for speed. Its top speed was barely 15 to 18 miles per hour. It was built for torque and versatility. The multi in the name referred to the various attachments available: dump beds, snowplows, street sweepers, and ladders. Despite its small size, it could carry a payload of nearly 2 tons, which is mind-blowing for a vehicle of its dimensions. The controls were cramped, and the ride was harsh, but it never quit. Amazingly, unlike many other East German manufacturers that vanished after unification, the multicar company survived the fall of the Berlin Wall and is still in business today, making modern utility vehicles. But the M22 remains the classic icon, a noisy, smoky, shaking, but incredibly reliable little worker. It is a favorite among collectors of oddball machinery who enjoy driving a truck that tops out at the speed of a bicycle but can pull a house. It is the perfect end to our list of weird wonders. From the window-heavy sightliner to the three-wheeled wonders, these 10 trucks prove that automotive history is absolutely insane. We have seen the wildest designs solving the toughest problems. Now it is your turn. Which mechanical oddity was your favorite? Would you pick the rock-crawling Volvo or the tiny tricycle? Comment down below right now. Remember to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the next video. Thanks for watching. Stop scrolling. Everything you know about trucks is wrong. We aren't talking about Fords or Chevys here. Imagine a truck that looks like a spaceship, another that drives while you stand up, and a military beast that actually swims through rivers. These aren't sci-fi movies. These are real monsters from history that defy every law of physics and logic. Why would anyone build a truck with only 3 wheels, or one that bends in the middle? Today we are exposing 10 of the most bizarre, dangerous, and mind-blowing trucks ever made. You need to watch until the very last second to believe they exist. Hit that subscribe button right now and do not look away, because this ride is about to get extremely weird, and trust me, you are not ready for the six-wheeled nightmare waiting at number 1. We start our journey in post-war Japan with a vehicle that looks less like a truck and more like a rolling log. Meet the Mazda T2000. When you first look at it, your brain struggles to comprehend the proportions. It is incredibly long, with the longest version stretching over 20 feet in length, yet it balances precariously on just 3 wheels. This wasn't a mistake, it was a necessity. In the tight, narrow streets of recovering Japan, maneuverability was king. The 3-wheel configuration allowed for a much tighter turning radius than any 4-wheeler could dream of, making it the ultimate urban workhorse. Don't let the quirky tricycle look fool you. This machine was an absolute beast in its category. Under the cabin, or rather inside the cabin with you, sat a robust 121 cubic inch, 2.0 liter, water-cooled 4-cylinder engine. This was a significant jump in power compared to its smaller predecessors. The T2000 was the undisputed king of the auto rickshaw class, capable of hauling a payload of roughly 4,400 lbs, 2 tons. It could hit speeds of around 60 mph, which, given that you are balancing on one front wheel, must have felt absolutely terrifying. It was heavy-duty hauling with motorcycle dynamics. Driving the Mazda T2000 was an experience completely unique to this era. The cabin was sparse, loud, and offered zero crash protection, but it provided an unobstructed view of the road because you were sitting directly on top of the front wheel. It represents a specific moment in history where utility completely trumped aesthetics. While they look alien to us now, in the 1960s and early 70s, these blue giants were building the infrastructure of a nation. Today, seeing one is a rare treat, a reminder of when Mazda was building the backbone of industry before they became famous for sports cars. Crossing the Atlantic to the United Kingdom, we find the Scamel Scarab, a vehicle with a name as distinctive as its shape. Developed in 1948, the Scarab was designed to be the successor to the literal horse-drawn carts still used in British rail yards. The engineers needed a mechanical replacement that could maneuver exactly like a horse. The result was this snub-nosed, 3-wheeled tractor unit. With a payload capacity ranging from 6,700 to 13,000 lbs depending on the model, it was a serious industrial tool packaged in a toy-like body, dominating the narrow alleyways of London. The true magic of the Scarab lay in its front wheel configuration. It could rotate a full 360 degrees, allowing the truck to spin within its own length. Imagine the utility of that in a crowded city center. You could practically parallel park it sideways. The cabin was mounted directly over the engine, usually a side-valve gas engine or a Perkins diesel, which meant the driver was intimately acquainted with the heat and noise. It wasn't built for driver comfort. It was built to move freight from trains to local businesses as efficiently as physically possible. What makes the Scarab truly bizarre to modern eyes is its coupling system. It used an innovative automatic coupling gear that allowed the driver to hook up a trailer without ever leaving the cab, a feature that was revolutionary for driver efficiency at the time. Despite its somewhat comical appearance, the Scarab was incredibly durable. Thousands were produced, and they remained in active service well into the 1960s. Watching a Scarab in motion is like watching a dance. It scurries around with an agility that defies its industrial purpose, a brilliantly British solution to a logistical problem. Now we leave the realm of utility and enter the mind of a mad genius. Luigi Colani was not a truck manufacturer. He was a visionary industrial designer who believed that nature held the perfect shapes. He detested the boxy, brick-like shape of modern semi-trucks, arguing that they were aerodynamic disasters that wasted fuel. So, starting in the late 70s, he created a series of concept trucks, most notably the Colani 2001, based on heavy-duty Mercedes-Benz chassis. These weren't just drawings, they were fully functional prototypes that looked like they drove straight off the set of a sci-fi blockbuster. The design is absolutely stunning and shocking. The driver's cabin looks like the cockpit of a fighter jet or the eye of a giant insect. It is circular, featuring a massive round windshield with a rotating three-blade wiper that looks like a propeller. The entire front end is sculpted to slice through the air, claiming to reduce fuel consumption by up to 30% at highway speeds. The driver sat high up in a central position, surrounded by glass, piloting the vehicle more than driving it. It was organic design, bio-design, applied to heavy industry in a way no one had ever dared before. However, despite their futuristic looks and proven aerodynamic efficiency, the industry never adopted them. Why? Because they were impractical for everything else. The bizarre, elongated nose reduced the legal length available for cargo, made engine access a nightmare for mechanics, and was incredibly expensive to manufacture. Trucking companies wanted standardized boxes for maximum profit, not spaceships. Yet, the Kalani trucks remain some of the most fascinating vehicles ever seen on a highway. They stand as a testament to what trucking could look like if we prioritized wind resistance over boxy efficiency. Germany in the late 1940s was rebuilding from rubble, and they needed simple, reliable transport. Enter the Tempo Matador. At first glance, the Matador looks somewhat like a Volkswagen bus that is melted in the sun. It has a low, droopy face with headlights that seem to be staring sadly at the ground. But the weirdest part of the Matador isn't its looks, it's the engine. This was one of the very few trucks to use the Volkswagen Beetle's 1100cc, approx 67 cubic inch engine, but it placed it in the front, driving the front wheels. This front-wheel drive, FWD layout was actually a stroke of genius for a utility vehicle. Because there was no driveshaft running to the back wheels, the cargo bed could be extremely low and flat, making it incredibly easy to load heavy goods by hand. With only 25 horsepower on tap, it wasn't going anywhere fast. Top speed was barely 50 mph, but it could carry a surprising amount of weight. It was the perfect delivery vehicle for the narrow cobblestone streets of Europe. However, this success created a rivalry with Volkswagen itself. Volkswagen realized the Tempo Matador was a direct competitor to their own upcoming Type 2 transporter, the VW bus. So they cut off the supply of engines. Tempo was forced to scramble and switch to other engines, primarily Austin motors, which changed the design of the front end. But the original VW-powered Matadors remain the holy grail for collectors. The driving position is bizarrely forward, sitting right over the front axle with a horizontal steering wheel. It looks friendly, harmless, and slightly confused, a fascinating footnote in history where the VW engine almost became the standard for front-wheel drive trucks. If you thought the Mazda T2000 was the only three-wheeler on this list, think again. Germany had its own fascination with the tripod layout, and the Goliath Goalie was the last of its kind. Produced by the Borgward Group in the late 1950s, the Goalie was a desperate attempt to keep the cheap three-wheeled commercial vehicle alive. Unlike its chain-driven predecessors, the Goalie featured a more advanced shaft drive system, sending power to the front wheel. The design is stark, utilitarian, and dangerously simple, looking like a metal box balanced on a tricycle. The Goalie was powered by a tiny 30 cubic inch, 500cc, two-cylinder, two-stroke engine. If you know engines, you know that means blue smoke and a very distinct ring-ding-ding noise echoing through the streets. With about 15 horsepower, it had a payload of roughly 2,000 lbs, which is impressive relative to its size, but stability was always a concern. While it was fine for low-speed city deliveries, taking a corner too fast in a fully loaded Goliath Goalie was a recipe for a rollover. It was the budget option for the small business owner who couldn't quite afford a four-wheeled van. Despite its limitations, the Goalie was surprisingly popular for a short time due to its low cost and tax benefits. But as the German economic miracle took hold, people wanted real cars, not unstable three-wheelers. The Goalie became a symbol of the lean years. Looking at one today with its single front wheel tucked under a narrow nose and its wide cargo bed, it looks precarious. It serves as a reminder of how simple a vehicle can be and still be considered a truck. It is minimalism taken to the extreme, a shaft-driven relic of a desperate time. Let's head back to Japan to meet a truck that is as adorable as it is functional, the Daihatsu Midget. Specifically, the early DK models launched in 1957. If you have ever seen a movie set in 1950s Tokyo, you have seen these zipping around. The Midget was designed to fit into a specific tax class that made it accessible to practically everyone. It is tiny, so small that a large American driver might actually struggle to fit inside. We are talking about a total weight of just over 1,000 lbs and a payload capacity of around 600 to 800 lbs. It was the definition of light duty. The most shocking feature of the early DKA version was the steering. It didn't have a steering wheel, it had motorcycle handlebars. The cabin was essentially a glass and steel bubble built around a scooter. It had one headlight in the center on the earliest drafts, later moving to two bug eyes, giving it the look of a startled frog. Power came from a tiny 15 cubic inch 250C two-stroke engine. It wasn't fast, topping out at about 40 mph, and it certainly wasn't safe by modern standards, but it was exactly what Japan needed to bridge the gap between bicycles and full-size trucks. The Daihatsu Midget became a cult icon representing the democratization of logistics. You didn't need a commercial license or a lot of money to own one. It is the spiritual ancestor of the modern K-truck, but with way more character. The charm of the Midget lies in its honesty. It doesn't pretend to be tough, it pretends to be helpful. Driving one today is a terrifyingly fun experience. You are inches from the ground, surrounded by thin metal, buzzing along like an angry hornet. It is impossible not to smile when you see one, proving that good things really do come in small packages. When you think of Jeep, you think of the Wrangler or the old CJ models. But in the late 1950s, Jeep decided to get weird with the Forward Control series, and the FC-150 is the strangest of the bunch. The idea was to maximize cargo space on a short chassis. So they took the frame of a standard CJ5 Jeep and placed the cab famously on top of the engine, right at the very front. The result is a truck with a wheelbase of just 81 inches, that is shorter than a modern Honda Civic, yet it carried a full-sized pickup bed. The proportions of the FC-150 are mind-boggling. It looks like a pug dog, flat-faced, top-heavy, and ready to fight. This design gave it incredible off-road maneuverability because there was virtually no front overhang. You could approach a vertical rock wall and your tires would hit it before the bumper did. However, this design came with a terrifying drawback. Because all the weight was in the front, if you braked hard while going down a steep hill with an empty bed, the rear wheels could actually lift off the ground. The truck was known to do stoppies, which is not what you want in a utility vehicle. Despite the scary handling quirks, the FC-150 is a marvel of packaging. Jeep even had to add a heavy cast-iron weight to the rear bumper just to keep the back wheels on the ground. The view from the driver's seat is commanding. You see nothing but the road directly beneath your feet. It is a masterpiece of industrial design by Brooks Stevens, distinct from anything else on the American road. Today, the Jeep FC-150 is a collector's dream, a rugged, quirky 4x4 that proves Jeep wasn't afraid to think outside the box, even if the result was a little tipsy. If you have ever been to a vintage food truck festival, you have probably seen a Citroën Type H. But don't let its modern hipster popularity fool you. This is a serious piece of industrial history dating back to 1947. The first thing you notice is the skin. The entire body is made of corrugated steel panels, looking exactly like the Junkers airplanes of W. Poo. This wasn't for style. The ridges added immense strength to the thin metal sheets without adding extra weight. It was cheap, strong, and ugly beautiful, staying in production for 34 years with minimal changes. The Type H was revolutionary beneath the skin. It featured a unitary body with no separate frame, four-wheel independent suspension, and most importantly, front-wheel drive. This meant the floor in the back was completely flat and incredibly low to the ground, just 13 inches high. You could walk in and out without climbing, standing fully upright inside thanks to the 6-foot ceiling height in many models. It was a rolling box of maximum efficiency. The pig-nose front end, with the engine protruding forward into the cabin, gave it a distinctive silhouette that became a French icon. Driving a Type H is a physical workout. The steering is heavy, the gearbox is tricky, and the engine, usually a 116 cubic inch 1.9L gas unit, is loud. Top speed is theoretically 60 mph, but you would need a lot of courage and earplugs to sustain it. Yet it is virtually indestructible. It was the van of the French police, the post office, and the local baker. It is a vehicle that prioritizes function over form so heavily that it actually circles back to being a work of art. The tube, as it is affectionately called, is weird, corrugated, and utterly unmistakable. For many Americans growing up in the mid-20th century, the sound of the Divco was the sound of mourning. Divco, Detroit Industrial Vehicle Company, built trucks specifically for one purpose: multi-stop delivery. They are most famous as milk trucks. The design is iconic: a rounded snub-nosed hood and a smooth, almost Art Deco body. But the weirdest feature of the Divco was how you drove it. These trucks were designed for extreme efficiency, allowing the driver to operate the vehicle while standing up. Yes, standing up. They featured a complex control system that allowed the milkmen to drive from a standing position using a throttle and brake mounted on the steering column or floor. This meant they could hop in, drive to the next house, and hop out without constantly sitting down and getting up, saving time and energy over hundreds of stops. The doors were bifold or sliding, allowing them to stay open while driving. The standard engine was typically a Hercules or Continental 4-cylinder, geared incredibly low. Top speed was irrelevant. These trucks lived their lives at 15 to 20 mph. The Divco represents a hyper-specialized era of automotive design. It didn't care about highway travel. It cared about stop-and-go efficiency. They were ubiquitous in American suburbs for decades, delivering milk, bread, and laundry. Today, their unique shape makes them popular as hot rods and promotional vehicles, but seeing one restored to its original specification highlights just how specialized it was. It's a truck that asks the question, why sit down when you have work to do? It is a fascinating slice of Americana that has largely disappeared along with the milkman himself. We end our list with perhaps the most capable and most hated vehicle in U.S. military history, the M561, better known as the Gamma Goat. Developed for the Vietnam War, the military needed a truck that could go anywhere, and they meant anywhere. The solution was a 6-wheel drive, 6C6 vehicle with an articulated joint in the middle. The cab and the trailer were permanently connected, but they could twist independently, allowing the wheels to stay on the ground over the roughest terrain imaginable. It looks like two vehicles smashed together, but it is one continuous machine. The Goat name was well-earned because it could climb over rocks and wade through mud that would stop a Jeep dead. But here is the crazy part. It was fully amphibious. It had an aluminum body and could float, propelled in the water by its wheels at a speed of roughly 2 to 3 mph. On land, it could hit 55 mph, powered by a Detroit diesel 3 to 53 two-stroke engine. This engine was the source of much hatred. It was located right behind the driver's head and was so deafeningly loud that drivers had to wear hearing protection just to operate it without suffering permanent hearing loss. The steering was also bizarre. It featured 4-wheel steering where the front and rear axles turned in opposite directions, making it handle strangely on pavement. It was complex, noisy, and required constant maintenance. The soldiers hated it because it was uncomfortable. The mechanics hated it because it was hard to fix. But in terms of pure weird engineering, it is a masterpiece, an articulated, swimming, 6-wheeled, screaming banshee of a truck. There has never been anything like the Gamma Goat before or since, cementing its place as the weirdest military truck ever made. We have seen some truly crazy things today. From the wobbly three-wheelers of Japan to the swimming military goats of America, these 10 trucks prove that automotive history is anything but boring. It was a time when engineers took risks and built machines that prioritized function over form in the weirdest ways possible. Which one was your favorite? Did you love the futuristic Kalani or the standing drive Divco? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into mechanical history. Thanks for watching. Think you know trucks? Forget the standard 18-wheelers you see on the highway every day. We are talking about engineering monsters that defy logic, physics, and sometimes even gravity. From a 10-wheeled desert leviathan that dwarfs a Jeep, to an Art Deco spaceship designed to sell beer and a steam-powered beast that ruled the roads before diesel was king. Today, we're counting down the top 10 insane trucks you won't believe actually exist. You might want to sit down for number 1. It's literally the size of a house and weighs over 50,000 pounds. Which one would you dare to drive? Let me know in the comments below and smash that subscribe button so you never miss a ride. Let's roll. We are kicking off this list with an absolute American icon that refused to die, the Ford C750. While it might look like a standard cab over at first glance, the crazy part about this truck is its immortality and its bizarre design longevity. Introduced in the late 1950s, this truck's design was so distinct and arguably perfect for its job that Ford barely changed it for over 30 years until 1990. It's the truck that built modern America, recognized instantly by its flat, vertical face and the way the driver sits ahead of the front axle, creating a terrifyingly awesome driving experience where you feel like you are floating over the bumper. But here is where it gets wild. The C750 has recently found a second life that is far crazier than its industrial origins. In the US car culture scene, specifically at shows like SEMA, this humble hauler has been transformed into some of the most insane restomods on the planet. Builders are taking these vintage cabs, dropping them onto modern air ride chassis and stuffing them with massive big block V8s or modern turbo diesels pushing 1,000 horsepower. Why is it on this list? Because of the sheer complexity of its steering geometry and its imposing road presence. The C750 looks like a cartoon character come to life. Its awkward forward-leaning stance makes it look like it's constantly sniffing the road. Today, seeing a C750 isn't just spotting a truck, it's spotting a legend that bridged the gap between the classic Art Deco era and the modern industrial age. It is the grandfather of the cab-over, and heavily modified versions are now worth 6 figures. Next up, we have a truck that literally looks down on everything else on the road, the Corvette D600. Produced in the early 1950s out of North Carolina, this machine earned the nickname the Tall Boy, and for very good reason. Just look at the sheer height of that hood. The Corvette D600 was designed with a very specific, albeit strange, philosophy: brute force functionality over aesthetics. The designers needed to fit a massive Continental gasoline engine, and later powerful Cummins diesels, into the frame. So instead of widening the truck, they just kept building upwards. The result was a truck with a center of gravity that looked terrifyingly high. The cab sits so high up that drivers practically needed a ladder to get into the office. The fenders are completely detached from the hood, floating separately, which gives it a skeleton-like, unfinished appearance that is unlike anything else from that era. It looks less like a designed vehicle and more like a rolling industrial power plant that forgot to put its skin on. Despite its awkward looks, the Corvette D600 was a beast in terms of torque and pulling power, capable of hauling massive loads that other trucks couldn't budge. However, it is on our list of crazy trucks because of its rarity and its odd proportions. Driving this meant you were swaying high above traffic, with a massive roaring engine separating you from the bumper. It's a prime example of 1950s American engineering where bigger always meant better, even if it meant the truck looked like a rolling brick wall. At number 3, we have the White 3000, a truck that revolutionized the industry with a feature we take for granted today, but back then it was pure science fiction. Launched around 1949, this truck looks like a friendly bulldog. It has a rounded snub-nose front end that is incredibly aerodynamic for its time, but the real magic happens when you need to fix the engine. Before the white 3000, working on a cab-over engine truck was a nightmare. You had to disassemble the interior, remove seats, or squeeze through impossible gaps just to change a spark plug. The white 3000 changed the game with the powerlift cab. With the turn of a key and the pull of a lever, a mechanical actuator would tilt the entire cab forward, exposing the engine completely in less than 30 seconds. In the 1950s, seeing a truck bow down like this at a gas station would gather a crowd of amazed onlookers. It was marketed as the truck of tomorrow, and for once, the advertising was actually true. It wasn't just a gimmick, it was a survival feature for mechanics and fleet owners. The white 3000 was marketed heavily towards inner-city delivery drivers because of its incredible turning radius and visibility. Its low floor height meant drivers could hop in and out easily, which was crucial for beer and milk delivery routes where drivers made hundreds of stops a day. Today, its curvy Art Deco styling makes it a favorite for hot rodders, but we remember it as the transformer truck that proved style and extreme functionality could go hand in hand. Crossing the Atlantic to the United Kingdom, we encounter a heavyweight champion, the AEC Mammoth Major. Specifically, we are looking at the classic 8-wheeler configuration, known in British trucking history as the 8-legger. This truck is the definition of British over-engineering. In the mid-20th century, if you had something incredibly heavy to move, you didn't call a standard semi, you called the Mammoth. These rigid trucks were designed to maximize payload within the strict British road laws, which limited axle weight rather than total gross weight. The most striking feature of the Mammoth Major is its twin-steer front axles. Seeing 4 wheels at the front turning in unison is a hypnotic sight and was necessary to distribute the massive weight of the payloads. The cab design, often built by coach builders like Park Royal, had a flat, authoritative face with a massive radiator grille that screamed power. Later models featured the tin front design, which hid the radiator behind a stylish pressed metal facade, giving it a deceptively modern look for the 50s. Under the hood, or rather under the doghouse inside the cab, sat the legendary AEC 11.3-liter, roughly 690 cubic inches diesel engine. It wasn't fast, top speed was often governed to under 40 mph, but it was unstoppable. These trucks were the backbone of British industry, hauling everything from coal to heavy machinery. Why is it on this list? Because of the sheer complexity of its steering geometry and its imposing road presence. Driving an 8-wheeler without power steering required the arm strength of a professional wrestler. If you thought trucks couldn't be cute, meet the Foden S21, but don't let the looks deceive you. This is a serious machine with a very distinct personality. Instantly recognizable by its nickname, the Mickey Mouse Cab, the Foden S21 is one of the most distinct heavy vehicles ever produced. Introduced in the late 1950s in Britain, it earned its nickname due to the shape of the grille and the split windshield, which vaguely resembled the famous cartoon character's smiling face. It stood out in a sea of boring, square industrial vehicles. But the S21 was crazy for a technological reason: composite materials. While everyone else was welding heavy steel sheets that were prone to rust, Foden took a massive gamble and built the S21 cab out of fiberglass. This was revolutionary. It meant the truck was lighter, completely resistant to corrosion, and could be molded into those distinctive curvy shapes that stamped metal just couldn't achieve cheaply. It was essentially a boat hull turned into a truck cab. The driving experience was also unique and incredibly loud. Many S21s were fitted with Foden's own 2-stroke diesel engines. Unlike a standard 4-stroke rumble, these engines didn't chug, they screamed. The sound of a Foden 2-stroke is a high-pitched howl that you can hear from miles away, often compared to a banshee. Combining that screaming engine with a fiberglass spaceship cab makes the S21 an unforgettable piece of history. It stands as a testament to a time when truck manufacturers were willing to take massive risks on new materials and bold designs. Next, we have the ERF KV series, specifically the GX model, often dubbed the Clear View. If the Corvette was about height, the ERF was about vision. In the 1950s, blind spots were a major killer on the narrow roads of Europe. ERF decided to solve this with a design that looked incredibly futuristic and slightly bizarre. They introduced a cab with wraparound curved glass at the corners of the windshield, creating a fishbowl effect. This might seem normal on a modern bus, but on a heavy-duty truck in the 50s, it was mind-blowing. It gave the driver a panoramic view of the road, eliminating the dangerous A-pillar blind spots that plagued other trucks. The cab itself has remarkably soft lines, looking more like a vintage kitchen appliance or a toaster than a jagged industrial machine. The KV literally stood for Clear View, emphasizing their obsession with safety through design innovation. The ERF KV68GX was typically powered by a Gardner diesel engine, known for being bulletproof but incredibly slow. We are talking about top speeds of maybe 45 mph on a good day downhill. The combination of the slow, steady engine and the fishbowl visibility made it a favorite for navigating tight towns. It's on our crazy list because it looks like a vehicle out of a retro-futuristic comic book. It challenged the boxy norms of truck design and proved that heavy machinery could have curves. Get ready for something that sounds impossible: a heavy-duty 8-wheel truck that runs on coal and water. Meet the Sentinel DG8, specifically the famous tarmac liveried wagons. We tend to think of steam power as something for trains or Victorian factories, but Sentinel kept the dream alive well into the 20th century with these steam wagons. The DG8, which stands for double-geared 8-ton, is a mechanical marvel that defies the timeline of automotive history. It doesn't have a roaring diesel explosion, it hisses and chuffs. The vertical boiler is located right inside the cab, which meant the driver and the firemen were essentially sitting next to a furnace. In the summer, the heat inside the cab was absolutely unbearable. But the advantage? Incredible torque from 0 RPM. Steam engines don't need a clutch to get moving, they just pull with infinite strength from a standstill, making them perfect for starting with heavy loads of road tar. This truck features 4 front steering wheels and 4 rear driving wheels. It was silent compared to the diesels of the day, but it required massive effort to operate. You had to stop for water every 30 to 40 miles, shovel coal, and manage pressure gauges while navigating traffic. It is on this list because it represents a fascinating dead end in automotive evolution. It is a dinosaur that walked among the mammals, a steam-powered giant that refused to go extinct until efficient diesel engines finally forced it off the road in the 1950s. At number 8, we have arguably the most beautiful truck ever built, the GMC Futureliner. This isn't just a truck, it is a rolling palace of Art Deco design. Built by General Motors for their Parade of Progress in the 1940s and 50s, only 12 of these majestic giants were ever manufactured. Their purpose wasn't to haul cargo, but to travel across America, opening up their massive 16-foot side panels to display the technologies of the future like microwave ovens, jet engines, and stereophonic sound to small-town America. The design is absolutely insane. The driver sits centrally, high up in a cockpit that resembles a fighter jet, accessed by a winding staircase at the front. Standing at 11 feet tall and 33 feet long, it features dual wheels on both the front and rear axles, and the body is styled with glorious chrome and red fins. At the top, a massive lighting array rose from the roof to illuminate the display area at night, making it a mobile event center. Driving it, however, was terrifying. It was severely underpowered with a 6-cylinder gasoline engine, the brakes were terrible for a vehicle weighing 30,000 pounds, and the steering was heavy. But nobody cared, because it looked spectacular. Today, the Futureliner is one of the most valuable vehicles on Earth. When one goes to auction, it sells for over $4 million. It is the ultimate example of form over function, a vehicle designed purely to inspire awe and wonder, making it a mandatory entry on our list of crazy trucks. If the Futureliner was about science, the Labatt Streamliner was about beer. In the 1930s and 40s, the Labatt Brewing Company in Canada wanted a delivery truck that would turn heads and counteract the negative image of alcohol after Prohibition. They hired the famous industrial designer Count Alexis de Sosnovsky, and the result was this aerodynamic masterpiece. It is widely considered one of the most stylish commercial vehicles ever designed. The Labatt Streamliner looks more like a stretched sports car than a delivery truck. Built on a White Motor Company chassis, the cab curves backward into the trailer in one continuous flowing line. The fenders are swept back and the rear of the trailer slopes down like a teardrop. This wasn't just for style. The aerodynamics actually improved fuel efficiency and allowed the truck to hit higher speeds, ensuring fresh beer was delivered faster. It was a moving billboard that screamed speed, modernity, and premium quality. What makes it truly crazy is the construction. The body was often handcrafted, combining wood framing with aluminum sheets, a technique used in carriage building. It was a piece of art used for manual labor. While most trucks of the era were square boxes, the Streamliner proved that industrial vehicles could be elegant. It won awards at the World's Fair in 1939 and remains a symbol of the streamlined modern design era. Seeing this truck makes you realize that we have lost a bit of style in our modern logistics world of square containers. We have saved the biggest, the wildest, and the most unbelievable machine for last. This is the Dabian. It isn't a vintage classic. It is a modern monster born from the imagination of Sheikh Hamad bin Hamdan Al Nahyan of the UAE, also known as the Rainbow Sheikh. If you think American monster trucks are big, the Dabian makes them look like children's toys. This isn't CGI. This 10-wheeled behemoth is 100% real and operational. This vehicle is officially the largest SUV in the world, but let's be honest, it's a mega truck. It measures over 35 feet long and weighs a staggering 24 tons, $48,000 LEBs. It is patched together from a military Oshkosh M-Ton 075 truck chassis, typically used to carry ballistic missiles. The body is a Frankenstein creation. The cabin of a modern Jeep Wrangler Unlimited was grafted onto the back, while a 1940s truck cab serves as the front driver's compartment. It has 10 wheels, yes, 10, and is powered by a 15.2-liter Caterpillar diesel engine producing 600 horsepower. The Dabian was built for one purpose: to dominate the desert dunes in absolute luxury. It is pure excess, a vehicle built simply because it could be built. It's a rolling collage of automotive history, blending rugged military hardware with civilian comfort. When it drives through the dunes, the ground literally shakes. It is the ultimate definition of crazy because it serves no practical purpose other than to be awesome. It is the king of the weird trucks, and a fitting end to our list. From the steam-chuffing Sentinel to the desert-conquering Dabian, these machines prove that the world of trucking is anything but boring. They are mechanical dreams made of steel, chrome, and ambition. Which one was your favorite? Did the Art Deco beauty of the Futureliner win you over, or the sheer size of the Dabian? Drop a comment below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more insane automotive history. Thanks for watching, and keep on trucking. Think you know pickup trucks? Think again. Forget those boring, everyday haulers. What if I told you there is a completely forgotten truck from 1991 that literally humiliated a $250,000 Ferrari in a drag race? Or a bizarre machine legally classified as a passenger car just because it had plastic lawn chairs in the bed? Today we are exposing the 10 rarest, most completely insane pickup trucks in automotive history. You will not believe the absolute monster waiting at the end of this video. Smash that subscribe button right now, stick around until the final second, and let us uncover the madness. Kicking off our countdown is a truck that literally looks like a backyard science experiment. Gone right, the Studebaker Champ, also known as the Frankenstein workhorse. Back in 1960, Studebaker was bleeding cash and desperate for a new truck. They could not afford to design a new cab from scratch, so they did something absolutely unhinged. They took the front half of their compact passenger sedan, the Studebaker Lark, chopped it off and slapped it onto a heavy-duty chassis. It was a brilliant masterpiece that gave America a car-like interior in a rugged hauler. Pop the hood, and you could find a rugged 289 cubic inch V8 pushing out a respectable 210 horsepower, mated to a heavy-duty manual transmission. This was not just a fragile car masquerading as a truck. It had a genuine truck frame, sturdy leaf springs, and could haul heavy payloads just as well as the big boys from Ford and Chevy. The sliding rear window was an industry first, letting that sweet breeze cool down the cabin long before air conditioning. It was the ultimate working man compromise between weekend comfort and weekday grit. Unfortunately, this brilliant Frankenstein monster could not save the struggling brand. Studebaker shut down its United States plant in 1963, making the Champ one of the last gasps of an iconic American automaker. Today, they are incredibly scarce. You rarely see them at car shows, but if you do manage to find a pristine V8 model, prepare for some price tag shock. These quirky pieces of Americana are steadily climbing, easily fetching over $25,000. If you think mashing a sedan and a truck together is weird, wait until you see the next one. Enter the finned anomaly, the completely outrageous Dodge D100 swept side. It is 1957, the space race is booming, and America is obsessed with massive, glorious tail fins. Chevrolet had just revolutionized the market with a sleek new truck, and Dodge was caught completely off guard. Their panic solution was pure madness. The Dodge Special Equipment Group literally grabbed the rear fenders off a two-door Dodge station wagon and bolted them directly onto a standard half-ton pickup bed. The result is one of the most stunning, wildly out-of-place designs ever to hit the asphalt. This was pure 1950s excess rolling on four wheels. Underneath that two-tone chrome-drenched exterior, you could spec it with a roaring 315 cubic inch Hemi 5.8, pumping out 204 horsepower. It came with a push-button automatic transmission right on the dashboard, white-wall tires, and enough chrome trim to blind oncoming traffic. Dodge did not build this to haul dirt. They built it to cruise down the boulevard and turn every single head in town. It was the ultimate statement piece for the wealthy rancher. But here is the crazy part: the public absolutely hated it. It was way too expensive, entirely impractical, and the cargo bed was awkwardly narrow. Dodge only managed to sell a few thousand of them before pulling the plug in 1959. It was a massive commercial flop. However, time changes everything. Because so few survived, it has become an absolute unicorn. Today, if you want to park a pristine swept side in your garage, you better have deep pockets because these finned beauties regularly auction for well over $100,000. Speaking of sleek 1950s style, our next truck brought pure fiberglass into the pickup game. Say hello to the gentleman's pickup, the beautiful, groundbreaking Chevrolet Cameo Carrier. Before 1955, trucks were essentially noisy, uncomfortable metal boxes meant exclusively for farmers and construction workers. They were tools, nothing more. But Chevy decided it was time to put a tuxedo on a blue-collar brawler. They took a standard stepside truck bed and ingeniously wrapped it in smooth, sleek fiberglass panels, creating the first true fleet-side look. It looked so unbelievably luxurious, it almost felt illegal to throw a heavy bag of cement into the back of it. This truck truly changed the game. This was not just a pretty face, it was a mechanical marvel. You could get it equipped with Chevy's legendary brand-new 265 cubic inch small block V8 engine, generating 145 horsepower. This was a revelation. It had a gorgeous panoramic wraparound windshield, beautiful two-tone paint jobs like Bombay ivory with commercial red accents, and a cabin equipped with a radio, a heater, and comfortable styling straight out of their passenger cars. This was a luxury cruiser disguised as a hauler, pioneering the premium lifestyle truck concept that dominates American roads today. Despite changing the pickup truck industry forever, the Cameo reign was surprisingly short. Those gorgeous fiberglass panels were fragile, easily damaged on rough job sites, and extremely expensive to produce. By 1958, Chevy figured out how to stamp the same sleek design out of solid steel, making the fragile Cameo obsolete overnight. It faded into history, but its legacy is undeniable. Finding an original 1955 Cameo today is like finding a needle in a haystack. They are highly coveted crown jewels for Chevy collectors, often commanding up to $80,000 at elite classic vehicle auctions. Welcome to the 1980s, an era of wild hair, synthesized music, and the incredibly confusing Dodge Rampage. After the fuel crises of the 70s, America was desperate for gas mileage, but blue-collar workers still needed a bed to haul their gear. Dodge looked at their front-wheel drive economy car, the Omni, grabbed a reciprocating saw and literally chopped off the back half. They stretched the wheelbase, grafted on a tiny pickup bed, and created a unibody car-truck hybrid that left everyone scratching their heads. Was it a sporty coupe? Was it a work truck? Nobody really knew. Underneath that sloped aerodynamic hood was a 2.2-liter inline-4 engine pumping out a blistering 84 horsepower. Okay, it was not going to win any drag races against a Ford Mustang, but thanks to its lightweight unibody construction and front-wheel drive, it handled more like a zippy go-kart than a heavy hauler. It had a remarkably car-like ride, independent front suspension, and could genuinely get over 25 miles per gallon, which was pure magic back in 1982. Legendary builder Carroll Shelby even got his hands on a few prototypes to inject some muscle into this weird hybrid. But ultimately, the Rampage was too weak for the hardcore truck guys and too utilitarian for the sports car crowd. It lived a short, misunderstood life, getting axed after just 3 years in 1984. Most of them were driven into the ground, completely rusted out in harsh winters, or simply crushed. Finding a survivor today is a bizarre automotive treasure hunt. The craziest part is that because they are so weird, they are actually affordable. You can snag a decent piece of 80s weirdness for under $10,000. Ready for another Dodge? Drop the top and cue the synthwave because here comes the sunburnt hauler, the Dodge Dakota Sport Convertible. Yes, you heard that right. In 1989, Dodge looked at the booming mid-size truck market and asked a question absolutely no one was asking: what if we make the roof disappear? They partnered with the American Sunroof Company to chop the solid steel roof off standard Dodge Dakotas, replacing it with a folding vinyl ragtop and a heavy-duty roll bar. It was the ultimate party truck for a beach bonfire, dripping with absolute neon-era swagger. Powering this bizarre beach cruiser was a robust 3.9-liter fuel-injected V6 engine, throwing down 125 horsepower to the rear wheels. It had exclusive decals, alloy wheels, and a rugged stance. But here is where it gets hilarious. Pause the video for 3 seconds right now. How long do you think it took a normal guy to manually fold down that confusing vinyl roof? If you guessed anything under 5 minutes, you are entirely wrong. It was a clumsy, frustrating two-person job of undoing snaps, folding heavy fabric, and wrestling with stubborn straps. Unsurprisingly, contractors realized that hauling drywall with the top down was not very practical, and everyday drivers got tired of the terrible highway wind noise and leaky weather seals. Production barely lasted 3 years, with fewer than 4,000 units ever built. It was a spectacular, sun-soaked commercial failure. Today, it is an absolute cult classic. If you roll up to a car meet in a pristine drop-top Dakota, you will get massive attention. Expect to pay a premium price tag of up to $20,000 for a clean, rust-free example of this beautiful oddity. Brace yourselves for the tipping point, the wildly disorienting Willys FC-150. In the post-war boom of 1956, America was building everything bigger and longer. Willys, the legendary makers of the military Jeep, went the exact opposite direction. They introduced the forward control design. They took the tiny 81-inch wheelbase chassis of a standard Jeep CJ5, pushed the cab all the way to the absolute front edge of the frame, and dropped the engine right between the front seats. The proportions are so incredibly jarring it looks like it could tip over forward. Do not let the cartoonish, flat-faced looks fool you. This was a serious, hardcore piece of agricultural machinery. It was powered by the legendary Hurricane 4-cylinder engine, producing just 72 horsepower. But with its ultra-low gearing and rugged four-wheel drive system, it could climb a vertical brick wall. By pushing the cab forward, Willys managed to fit a massive full-size 6-foot cargo bed on a chassis the size of a golf cart. Driving it, however, was an absolutely terrifying experience. You sat directly over the front axle, with your knees acting as the front bumper. While farmers and industrial workers loved its unmatched maneuverability in incredibly tight spaces, the everyday American consumer was completely terrified of it. It was top-heavy, painfully slow, and felt dangerously unstable at higher speeds. By 1963, Willys pulled the plug, moving back to more conventional truck designs. The FC-150 vanished into old barns and rusted out in forgotten fields. Today, they are beloved by Jeep purists and quirky vehicle collectors. A fully restored FC-150 is a rare, show-stopping oddity that easily commands a staggering price tag of $40,000. Meet the tax-dodging rebel, the infamous Subaru Brat. In the late 1970s, the United States government was heavily enforcing the chicken tax, a brutal 25% tariff on all imported light pickup trucks. Foreign automakers were getting crushed. Subaru wanted to sell their new quirky little truck in America, but paying a massive tax would ruin their pricing. So their engineers did something brilliantly devious. They took two hard plastic seats, bolted them completely backward into the open cargo bed, slapped some seatbelts on them, and confidently smiled right at the strict border customs agents. Because it now had rear seating, the government legally had to classify the Brat as a passenger car, dropping the tax from a crippling 25% down to a tiny 2.5%. It was a massive middle finger to the tax code. The Brat was a scrappy four-wheel drive mountain goat powered by a reliable 1.6-liter flat-four boxer engine. It had a hidden halo twin roof, rugged styling, and became an absolute icon for outdoor adventurers and surfers. Even President Ronald Reagan famously owned one for his California ranch, driving it proudly around his property. But the rebellion could not last forever. Riding backward in a plastic seat in an open truck bed on the highway was precisely as dangerous as it sounds. By 1985, tightened safety regulations forced Subaru to ditch the jump seats, completely destroying the tax loophole and their sales numbers. Most Brats eventually succumbed to massive rust issues. Today, finding a clean Subaru Brat is incredibly tough, but finding one with those original tax-dodging plastic jump seats is like finding the Holy Grail. Enthusiasts gladly pay over $25,000. Welcome to 1974, where Mazda committed mechanical treason with the high-revving heretic, the Mazda rotary pickup, or Rep-U. Truck buyers traditionally want one thing: low-end grunting torque to haul heavy payloads. So what did Mazda do? They took the engine out of their RX-4 sports car, a high-revving, low-torque Wankel rotary engine, and shoved it straight into a compact pickup truck. It made absolutely no sense on paper, but it created one of the most uniquely exhilarating driving experiences in truck history. Nobody expected a work vehicle to scream like a race car. Under the hood was Mazda's legendary 1.3-liter 13B two-rotor engine, producing 110 horsepower. But it was not about the raw power, it was all about the red line. While Ford and Chevy Fi8s were gasping for air at 4,000 revolutions per minute, the Rep-U smoothly screamed all the way to 7,000, sounding like a swarm of very angry bees. It featured widened fenders, a sporty dashboard, and distinct round taillights. It handled like a sports car and drove like a maniac, completely redefining what a mini-truck could actually be. So why did it die? Timing. The Rep-U launched right into the teeth of the 1970s oil crisis. Rotary engines are famously thirsty, and getting 10 miles per gallon in a compact truck was financial suicide for buyers. Plus, you could not tow much weight without completely blowing the clutch. Mazda killed it by 1977 with only about 15,000 units sold. Today, Japanese market collectors and rotary cultists fiercely hunt these down. A mint-condition Repu will easily blast past the $30,000 mark. Get ready for our next legend. Enter the dark, smog-choked days of the late 1970s and meet the loophole legend, the Dodge Lil Red Express. Muscle cars were dead. The Environmental Protection Agency mandated catalytic converters that strangled V8 engines into miserable, wheezing shadows of their former selves. But the brilliant engineers at Dodge discovered a massive loophole in the federal regulations. Light-duty trucks with a gross vehicle weight rating over 6,000 pounds did not legally need catalytic converters. Dodge bulked up a standard truck suspension to cross that threshold and went completely rogue. Freed from emissions chokeholds, they dropped in a modified 360 cubic-inch Police Interceptor V8 engine, packing a 4-barrel carburetor and pushing out 225 horsepower. But the real showstopper was the exhaust. They bolted massive dual-chrome smokestacks directly behind the cab, shooting straight up into the sky like an 18-wheeler semi-truck. Dripping in canyon red paint with real oak wood bed paneling, it was gloriously obnoxious. In 1978, Car and Driver magazine tested it and declared it the fastest American-made vehicle from 0 to 100 miles per hour. The fun could not last forever. By 1979, the government wised up, forcefully closed the loophole, and slapped catalytic converters on the Lil Red Express, instantly killing its phenomenal performance. The second oil crisis put the final nail in the coffin, ending production completely. Today, this middle finger to the EPA is an icon of American automotive rebellion. If you want to relive the glory days of the loophole legend, be prepared to write a massive check for up to $45,000. But our final boss truck is even crazier. It is time for the ultimate payoff. Bow down to the Ferrari killer, the terrifying, mind-bending 1991 GMC Cyclone. To the untrained eye, it simply looks like a boxy, blacked-out lowered work truck from the early 90s. But underneath that sinister, squared-off exterior is a mechanical monster that literally shattered the global automotive hierarchy. In 1991, General Motors handed their humble Sonoma compact truck to a high-performance engineering team, who proceeded to build an absolute weapon that had no business being on public roads. It was a truck designed purely to humiliate expensive exotic supercars. They took a 4.3-liter V6 engine, strapped a massive Mitsubishi turbocharger to it, and bolted on a liquid-to-air intercooler. Officially, GMC claimed it made 280 horsepower, but everyone knew they were lying to keep Corvette owners from crying. It was pushing way over 300. They paired this explosive power with a sophisticated full-time all-wheel drive system. The result was 0 to 60 miles per hour in a face-melting 4.3 seconds. Car and Driver magazine famously drag-raced a stock Cyclone against a brand-new Ferrari 348. The boxy GMC truck completely destroyed the Ferrari. But extreme performance came with absurd compromises. It had a maximum payload capacity of just 500 pounds, meaning 2 heavy guys and a cooler would max it out. You could not take it off-road, and you certainly could not tow a trailer with it. GMC only built 2,995 of these blacked-out beasts before shutting the program down. Today, the Cyclone is a holy grail of the 90s tuner scene. If you want to own the legendary truck that made Ferrari engineers lose sleep, it will cost you up to $80,000. From a chopped-up sedan to a turbocharged Ferrari slayer, the history of the pickup truck is filled with absolute glorious insanity. These rare machines prove that sometimes the craziest engineering happens when you think completely outside the box or the truck bed. Which of these mechanical misfits would you park in your dream garage? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this high-octane history lesson, smash that like button, subscribe for more automotive madness, and keep the pedal to the metal. Forget everything you think you know about trucks. Modern rigs are just boring plastic boxes compared to the mechanical monsters we've dug up today. We are talking about 500-ton leviathans that shatter pavement, engines that sound like machine guns, and a logging beast so massive it needs water-cooled brakes just to keep from bursting into flames. From a bizarre Mickey Mouse oddity to a Guinness World Record holder that defies physics, these are the 10 strangest vintage trucks that actually existed. You won't believe the engineering freak at number 1. It is absolutely terrifying. So smash that subscribe button, buckle up, and watch until the very last second because this heavy-duty history lesson is about to get wild. Let's ease into this list with something that isn't just strange, it is absolutely stunning. Meet the Diamond T201, often hailed as the Cadillac of trucks. Produced in the United States starting in the late 1930s and running through the 40s, the Diamond T wasn't built for brute force alone, it was built for style. In an era where trucks were strictly utilitarian workhorses, rough, loud, and uncomfortable, the Chicago-based Diamond T Company decided that truck drivers deserved a little bit of luxury. It features a stainless steel grille that looks like it belongs on a high-end luxury sedan, not a pickup. What made the Model 201 so bizarre for its time was its heavy borrowing from passenger car design. The fenders were sweeping and elegant, the cab was lower and more streamlined, and the interior featured passenger car gauges and comfort levels that were unheard of in commercial haulage. Under that stylish hood lay a Hercules 6-cylinder engine that was virtually indestructible, capable of hauling a payload of roughly 2,000 pounds. While 2,000 pounds might seem modest by today's heavy-duty standards, back then doing it at highway speeds of 50 miles per hour in such comfort was a revolutionary concept. The Diamond T201 is a testament to a time when industrial design was considered an art form. It is weird because it prioritized beauty in a market segment that usually didn't care about looks at all. It was a one-tonner that blurred the lines between a heavy-duty worker and a Sunday cruiser. Today, finding a 201 in original condition is like finding a needle in a haystack, and collectors in the US will pay a small fortune for the privilege of owning the most stylish truck ever built. It remains a rolling sculpture that proves work trucks don't have to be ugly. From American elegance, we jump across the pond to British quirkiness with the Foden S20. If you look at the cab of this truck, you might notice a resemblance to a certain famous cartoon character. Yes, this is affectionately known in the trucking world as the Mickey Mouse cab. Introduced in the 1950s by Foden, one of Britain's oldest truck manufacturers, the S20 has one of the most distinct faces in history. This is primarily due to the split windshield and the large rounded panels that distinctly mimic a smiling face, giving it a personality that most steel machines lack. The weirdness here isn't just cosmetic, it was a pioneering use of materials. The S20's cab was a composite construction, utilizing fiberglass reinforcing. At the time, this was space-age stuff, helping to shave off hundreds of pounds of deadweight compared to traditional steel cabs. Under the skin, the Foden S20 was a beast, often featuring the legendary Foden two-stroke diesel engine. These engines had a screaming, high-pitched exhaust note that you could hear from miles away. It wasn't fast by modern standards, topping out around 40 miles per hour, but its torque was sufficient to haul heavy loads across the UK's narrow roads. The S20 was a favorite among British haulers for its reliability and that iconic look. Foden took a massive risk with composite materials to prevent the rust that plagued metal cabs in the damp British weather, and it paid off. The shape was distinct, sure, but it was also surprisingly aerodynamic for the 1950s. It's a truck that proves you can be serious about heavy hauling while looking a little bit ridiculous. It's charming, it's bizarre, and it remains a true icon of the UK highways that collectors strive to preserve to this day. Staying in Britain, we move to a rival of Foden, ERF. In the 1950s, they released the KV series, and instantly it grabbed attention for one very specific design feature. The KV actually stood for Clear View, spelled with a K, and the reason is staring you right in the face. While other trucks had split screens or tiny flat glass, the ERF KV boasted a panoramic curved glass windshield with rounded corners. This design offered visibility previously unknown to truck drivers, eliminating dangerous blind spots that were common in older, boxier designs. Mechanically, the ERF-KV was usually powered by the Gardner diesel engine, typically producing around 150 horsepower. If you know anything about vintage engines, you know that Gardner engines are slow-revving, incredibly fuel-efficient, and essentially immortal. The combination of the futuristic clear-view cab and the bulletproof Gardner powertrain made the ERF-KV a legend. It could handle gross vehicle weights of over 30,000 pounds with ease. The styling is almost Art Deco, with the radiator grille integrating smoothly into the flowing lines of the front panel, looking more like a locomotive than a truck. The cab itself was beautifully rounded, moving away from the flat-nosed designs of the pre-war era. The KV was designed to maximize the driver's ability to navigate tight roads and loading docks, making it a favorite for drivers who spend days on the road. It's a strange mix of forward-thinking aesthetics and conservative, reliable engineering that creates a truly unique vintage machine. Even today, at vintage truck rallies, the fishbowl visibility of the ERF-KV stands out, reminding us of a time when visibility was the newest luxury feature. Let's head north to Scotland to talk about the Albion River. The Albion motto was, "Sure as the sunrise," and looking at the River, you can see why. While it might look like a standard vintage lorry to the untrained eye, the River was a technological oddity in the 1950s and 60s because of its chassis configuration. The cab design, known as the LAD cab, Leyland Albion Dodge, offered great visibility but was notoriously cramped and hot, sitting right on top of the engine. Despite the discomfort, it had a rugged charm that defined the Scottish working class. This was a lightweight six-wheeler with a double drive, meaning both rear axles were powered in a 6x4 configuration. At the time, most six-wheelers were heavy, lumbering giants weighing tens of thousands of pounds. Albion managed to engineer the River to be lightweight enough to carry a massive payload legally, yet tough enough to handle off-road construction sites. With a gross vehicle weight of around 40,000 pounds, it punched way above its weight class. The weird factor comes from its non-reactive suspension system and the sheer compactness of the drivetrain. The Albion River became the darling of the construction and tipper industry across the UK. It could scramble out of muddy quarries where heavier, more powerful trucks would sink and get stuck. Its distinct engine note and the whining sound of its transmission are nostalgic triggers for anyone who grew up in the UK during that era. It wasn't the biggest, but its unique lightweight 6x4 design makes it a marvel of efficiency. It proved that in the world of trucking, being lighter and smarter is sometimes better than just being bigger. Next up is the Knight of the Road, the Atkinson Borderer. Atkinson vehicles, based in Preston, England, had a very specific way of doing things. The Borderer, particularly the Mark I and Mark X models, is instantly recognizable by the big A inside a circle right in the center of the radiator grille. But the real oddity here is, once again, the construction material. Atkinson was a pioneer in using glass-reinforced plastic, fiberglass, for their cabs long before it became industry standard. It looks tough, almost aggressive, with its flat front and exposed radiator. That exposed radiator was often just a facade. Behind the grille was usually a Gardner engine that ran so cool it barely needed the airflow. The quirkiness of the Atkinson lies in its customization. Unlike mass-produced trucks, Atkinsons were often hand-built to specific customer orders. You could order a Borderer with almost any combination of engine and gearbox you wanted. Most were set up for a gross combination weight of roughly 70,000 pounds, a standard for British haulage at the time. The driving experience was raw, with no power steering and a clutch that required a strong left leg. The environment inside the fiberglass cab was notoriously loud, and the heating was practically non-existent, often leading drivers to wear heavy coats while driving in winter. Yet drivers loved them. There was a pride in driving an Atkinson Black Knight or Borderer. It represented a rugged individualism that is lost in today's standardized fleet trucks. It's a fiberglass box of noise and power, and that is why we love it. The Borderer remains a symbol of the golden age of British haulage, where the driver had to really drive the machine. Let's cross the Alps into Italy. Italian trucks are often overlooked, but the OM Super Orione is a machine that demands respect. Produced in the 1950s by OM, Officine Meccaniche, this truck was a heavy-duty monster designed to conquer the steep winding passes of the Italian mountains. The design of the truck is distinctly Italian. It has a mustache-style grille and a very tall, commanding stance. It looks like a brute in a tailored suit, combining rugged utility with a touch of Mediterranean flair that makes it stand out from its German and British counterparts. What makes the Super Orione strange and special is what powered it. In an era where most European trucks were running inline-six engines, the Super Orione boasted a massive 90-degree V8 diesel engine. A V8 in a commercial truck in the 1950s was a serious statement. It produced around 170 horsepower. While that sounds low today, back then it was the king of the road. This power allowed it to tow loads exceeding 40 tons up steep gradients where other trucks would stall. The sound of that V8 echoing off the tunnel walls in the Alps was absolutely legendary. The Super Orione was famous for pulling road trains in Italy, a truck and a trailer with a combined weight that would crush lesser vehicles. It represents a golden age of Italian industrial might before strict regulations standardized truck sizes. The combination of that rare V8 configuration and the stylish, almost Art Deco front end makes the OM Super Orione a unicorn in the world of vintage trucking. It is sophisticated, powerful, and undeniably cool, proving that Italy's talent for engines extended far beyond Ferrari and Maserati. While we are in Italy, we have to talk about the king of Africa. This is the Fiat 682N2. If you go to certain parts of Africa today, you might still see these running. The 682 is bizarre not because of a weird shape, but because of its unkillable nature. Launched in the early 50s, this truck was so good, so simple, and so robust that it remained in production in various forms for over 3 decades. The N2 version is iconic, featuring the classic Baffy or mustache chrome whiskers on the front grille, giving it a friendly yet sturdy face. The real story is the chassis. The steel used in the Fiat 682 frames was of such high quality that they simply refused to snap. In many developing nations, these trucks were routinely overloaded by 200%, carrying loads of 50,000 to 60,000 pounds on trucks rated for half that amount. The engine was a slow-revving, high-torque masterpiece that could run on questionable quality fuel without complaining. It wasn't fast, struggling to hit 45 miles per hour, but speed wasn't the point. Reliability was the only metric that mattered, and the 682N2 scored a perfect 10. It's strange to think that a truck designed for paved Italian roads became the backbone of transport for an entire continent thousands of miles away. The 682N2 lacks modern comforts. No AC, power steering was a luxury, but its mechanical sympathy is unmatched. It is a legend that refuses to die. In the world of disposable technology, where cars break down after a few years, the Fiat 682N2 stands as a monument to permanent engineering. It is the vehicular equivalent of a hammer, simple, heavy, and it works every single time.